You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
For our listeners tuning in right now, we're on with Clenari Carter, our Israel Sports Radio Southern correspondent. We have a 3-hour show. We're going to be having a lot of great players on. In fact, we're going to be having Zaza from the Hawks. We were going to have him on last Thursday, but it didn't work out. But Clenari, I want to talk a lot of Heat basketball with you. I have about 20 minutes chat with you. Last night, it really looked like the game was over in the first quarter. So what were your thoughts about last night's game?
Well, LeBron James, first and foremost, was phenomenal. You know, putting up what was 32 points, 13 rebounds last night. They really came out with a very, very good fire. I think the Indiana series kind of lit them up a little bit. You know, kind of brought out the best, and D Wade and everything like that. So they were ready to actually fire and have everything going when they entered into the series against the Boston Celtics last night. And that was definitely something that you could see from the get-go during the first quarter. So it was definitely something that you have to look at and say, hey, is LeBron James did he really deserve MVP over Kevin Durant? Yeah, I kind of think so right now.
Right, and Clara, we talked about this last night off air about how, well, I guess I was saying this. I wasn't really sure if you were agreeing, but I was just saying that LeBron James is the best player, in my opinion, in the NBA every year. Maybe he doesn't win championships. Maybe he doesn't do this. Maybe he doesn't take the last shot. Whatever you want to say about him, he is by far the best player overall. And I do really mean by far, because he has the ability to get you 8, 9, 10 assists a game, where Durant's not going to do that, let's be honest. So if it comes down to it, and the series does go 6 or 7, Kalani, which I think no one really thinks that. I'm talking about the series with the Celtics. Do you think LeBron will finally be ready to say in the huddle, I want to take that last shot, I want to do it? Or will Wade do it? Will Chalmers do it? What do you envision going ahead with the series?
Well, you know what? Honestly, we always give LeBron James a bunch of gripe about not being able to take the last shot at the end of the game and, different things like that.
Right.
But I always bring up this one point. When he was in Cleveland, he did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when he comes to another town and comes to another team, and the team's original star is still there, Dwayne Wade, you kind of defer a little bit, So I think that's all we're seeing out of him. And I think right now, going into the NBA Finals, I think LeBron James and Dwayne Wade has kind of put together who will actually take the last shot. And I think right now it's going to be LeBron James. I think that he'll have no problem doing that. He's done it before. I don't know if you remember. I think it was the 2007 Eastern Conference Finals versus the Pistons.
Right.
Where LeBron James went off in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And the overtime, yes.
Yeah, so that, hey, Ari.
Hey, Claude, how you doing, man?
What up, man?
No, but you're right on. I think he had 25 points in a row for the Cavs, so it's true. He has performed in the clutch before. It has happened.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of looking at right now, is that, whenever you come into a brand new type of situation, you do kind of defer a little bit when that star is already there. So I think that's the only issue that we're seeing with LeBron James, and I think that's kind of been ironed out throughout the 2011-2012 season and the 2012 playoffs. I think that's kind of ironed out a little bit.
Right, Kalani, this might be the stat of the night. We're only 11 minutes into this 3-hour program, but LeBron James, I believe, among active players in the NBA, in the last 60 seconds of a game, has the highest field goal percentage out of any player. I did not know if you knew that. I just saw that last night, and I was shocked. Of course, that does not count the last 10 seconds. I'll repeat it. Has the highest field goal percentage in the last 60 seconds of a game, the last minute. So that's just an interesting fact, because, you could say that a lot of the time he doesn't take the shot, but that doesn't mean that he misses it. That means he doesn't take it. So when he does take it, he seems to be having a pretty good field goal percentage. Of course, on the show, I gotta admit I'm wrong now, since it's the first show. Since my Pacers have been eliminated.
Yeah, Ari Louis had the Heat in 6. That's what happened.
I'm very, very devastated about that. For our listeners out there who heard me talk smack about the Pacers all season. And
Clenari Rafi was so confident. He was saying, I said 15 points. They won by 17, whatever.
They won that one game, though, by 17. Listen, it all turned around when the guy who we're talking about right now decided to step up. And that's LeBron James. Even Dwayne Wade. If I'm going to bring in another Indiana thing here. Dwayne Wade went to go visit my boy, Tom Crean, at Indiana University on the off day. And after that, 30 points a game. 40 points a game. So maybe a little Indiana Hoosier help, maybe. Who knows?
Always got to come back to the Hoosiers.
Yeah, you actually had them guys winning, game 4 by 15 as well. You had them winning back-to-back.
Right. Well, I was wrong. I'll admit defeat.
You're not throwing that in.
But we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, going a little back now to game 1, which was last night, as I was saying, the Heat really dominated. The Celtics kind of looked old. They are old. But I want to get your thoughts more on what Rondo has been able to do this whole playoffs. Not really this series, because it's been spectacular. People are saying it's one of the greatest performances by a point guard ever, including Magic Johnson in those 90s years.
Yeah, I agree. Rondo, did you see that game? What was that? Game 6, Indiana Pacers in the fourth quarter when he started hitting those 3-pointers.
Wait, against Rondo against the Pacers?
Wait, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Did you see Game 6? Should I say Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers, where Rondo closed it out in the fourth quarter, and he was hitting all of those nice open 3-pointers.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know, Clenari, you and I have talked a lot on the show about how Rondo's biggest weakness by far, nothing close to it, is just shooting. And he's really picked that up this offseason, and especially going into the postseason, he's been able to make some big shots. He's kind of gone. You kind of got to wonder if maybe Paul Pierce kind of showed him around, because Ari will know this as a big playoff history guy. Paul Pierce knows how to make that corner shot. If he gets up there and he's open, he's going to make it, right, Ari?
Yeah, that's pretty much. Well, I tell you, as far as one of the clutch players, Paul Pierce is right there in the conversation with Kobe Bryant as well.
Well, not LeBron, I guess. But
not LeBron. But the fourth
Kobe
quarter
Bryant.
output of Paul Pierce is almost second to none. So, yes, he can make that shot, and he only has one title at this point, but still a good playoff performer for the Boston Celtics.
Right, and
but we have Clenari on. We need to include him. We need to leave him out of this. But yes, you're right about Rondo, Clenari. You're
I'm
right.
listening to the show.
No, but you're a part of it, and you're right that Rondo can make those big shots, or he did in Game 6. But I feel like it's only a matter of time they're going to lose to the Heat. I know it's only one game in, but I think the feeling is this is the Heat's year, at least to go to the NBA Finals.
In the East.
But what can the Celtics pull out some type of miracle and I mean, take this 6-7 games, and what do they have to do to get this done?
Well, last night I was actually looking at some of the box scores and everything like that, and one of the things that I noticed was the aggression in the paint without Chris Bosh being available to the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat outscored the Boston Celtics without Chris Bosh again, 42-34 in the paint, and they out-rebounded them by 16 rebounds. It was 48-33 in the rebound category with 11 blocks. So any little inclination that we probably had about, can they do it? Garnett's down low. He's playing great. Chris Bosh is not there. Well, if you look at Shane Battier had 10 rebounds. LeBron James with 13. If they continue to put that type of game together down low in the paint, this is going to be a sweep. Forgive me, hey, it is what it is. I have all the respect for the Celtics, but if you cannot control the paint and Chris Bosh is missing, that speaks a lot.
Right, and it's scary to think about what this Heat team could be when Chris Bosh comes back and gives you those 18 points, 10 rebounds a game, because they've been, since the Pacers were up 2-1, it's hard for me to even say that, but since the Pacers were up 2-1, the Heat have just dominated without Bosh, and it's scary to think about, what will happen when he returns. Clara, I want to ask you, let's say Heat advance finals, can this Heat team compete against the Spurs at all?
Compete against the Spurs?
Yes.
Because they have to get out there on the court. Now, I think that what we kind of see right now out of Oklahoma City and the Spurs will kind of mirror what we'll probably see from out the Heat and Spurs. Heat and Spurs, I'm thinking of like a 6-game type of series. My only issue is the Miami Heat would not be able to control the paint without Chris Bosh down there, or anyway, whether Chris Bosh was there or not, because of the fact that you do have Tiago Splitter. I'm just going to throw his name out there. But you do have, Tim Duncan, and he's playing great right now.
Yeah,
Tim Duncan, the substitutions throughout the year made by Greg Popovich, resting Tim Duncan a game here, or, whenever they play more than 2 games in a row, Tim Duncan always got that third game off.
Right.
So that allowed them to actually rest. Not only was Tim Duncan getting that game off, Tony Parker would get the game off, and then Ginobili would probably get the game off. You're looking at a Spurs team that won the championship the last time the last time the NBA had a lockout. So you're talking about Greg Popovich and a team that knows exactly what they're doing. and because they were able to give the rest to those three big guys like that, and I call them big guys. I know one is a point guard, one is a shooting guard who comes off the bench. He's very, very, very electric 6-man. And you have Tim Duncan.
Right.
When being able to get those guys rest, it's starting to pay off. It's paying off big time.
Right.
It's interesting. This is kind of a flashback type of question, not really a question to say, but in 2006, I thought we were going to see Heat Spurs then, and I was really excited because we were going to see Shaq versus Duncan. Shaq and Duncan never played against each other in the NBA Finals. A lot, of course, in the conference, Western Conference, but it was not to be as the Spurs lost to the Mavericks. Mavericks not involved right now, so we could finally see Heat, Spurs, different cast of characters. But I like your point. The last time we had a lockout, Popovich and the boys from San Antonio got it done, so it could be their destiny, could be the pattern to do so. I don't know where this would rank as far as, I don't want to say upsets, but unlikely teams to win the title. I think most people if they do
it, the Spurs.
If the Spurs do it.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that with the team that's the number one seed in the West?
Before the season started. Most people had the Heat or the Thunder.
Okay, good point.
How many people had the Spurs winning the title before the season started?
Right.
And they thought they were dead and done and all this kind of stuff.
That's true.
Kalari, where would this rank as far as surprises? I think when the Pistons won in 2004, that was a surprise. I don't know how many people had them. I don't know how many people had the Mavericks last year to win the whole thing. Where would this rank in terms of surprises if, at the end of the day, the Spurs get it done?
If you ask me, I kind of put it right there with Dallas last year.
Okay.
Very, very good team, very sound, very well coached. But at the end of the day, you're right. A lot of fans, and I'm gonna put it on the fans. And, some of the different journalists looked at the fact and said, "Oh, they're old." Tim Duncan can't do this no more. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 20 points, 15 rebounds. There's no way. There's no way these guys could play back-to-back games and a 66-game season condensed in like that. There's no way, and I think that's what a lot of people were looking at. And I think they overlooked the fact that the Spurs were the best team last year during the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually number one.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Memphis was kind of the hot team last year in the playoffs with Zach Randolph exploding and doing it all without O.J. Mayo. I know some people in Memphis and people now there have been making that argument of, is this team better without Mayo? Kind of taking a lot of those ill-advised shots where he just kind of shoots at the top of the key. Was this team had more spunk, had more tenacity without him? So that's a whole other issue.
Okay.
But sorry, go ahead, Kalari.
So you talking about Rudy Gay, right?
I said O.J. Mayo. Yeah, I meant Rudy Gay. My apologies. So a great point, though, by Ari. I kind of want to talk about that a little more now. The funny part about what Ari said is, she's definitely right at the start of the season, but now you have to look at it going into the playoffs, being the number one seed, and at that point, I think of something like winning 8 in a row, or between 5 and 8 in a row at that time. Being the number one seed over such a talented team as the Thunder.
Right. Well, the Spurs haven't lost in over a month, right?
The Spurs have lost in 44 days.
In a row.
19 in a row.
Okay.
28. No, now 29 out of 32, I believe. We're talking about a season this year that was 66 games, like 29 out of 32. And, Kanari, I wanted to get your thoughts on the bench of this team, because I think this might be the deepest bench of all time. I'm not going to say the most talented, the best, but the deepest, I think, might be the right word. What do you think?
I think that this is, and that's why I've been saying Spurs since March now,
right.
About the NBA Finals, was because of their bench. Whenever you're able, not only their bench but the young guys as well. I really, really, really like the fact that they do have Kawhi Leonard. And they do have, Danny Green, and I think that those legs, those fresh legs, have provided a lot. And kind of, what's the word? They kind of balanced out the fact that the Spurs were a little bit older. So I think that those two guys being able to actually run has been tremendous. Not only that, but you're looking at Steven Jackson coming in off the bench.
Right.
Boris Diaw, he starts, but I just want to throw his name out there. Boris Diaw has been tremendous since arriving in San Antonio.
Absolutely.
Gary Neal
Right.
I like the guy. He can shoot. I almost feel like every time he puts up the ball, it has a 75% chance of either going inside the hoop. That he's a tremendous guy. So I think that, I haven't really heard too much from DeJuan Blair this year.
That's true. He's had an off year.
Great guy. He showed up last year on the market, but they're deep, and that shows how deep they really are. The fact that we're not even talking about Blair right now. So
right, and funny part about Neal, undrafted out of Towson, which is a big Jewish school, Clenari. I'm sure you didn't know that, but a big Jewish school in Maryland. A lot of Jewish guys went there. In fact, our own Tamir Goodman went there for a season, right, Ari?
Yes, that's correct.
So Towson's not really known for its basketball or football program, but he came from there. Let's give how much do you think of this should be credited to the Spurs management and the team they've been able to build this year after everyone said, they're done, they're too old?
Everything goes straight to that. R.C. Buford,
right.
He's done a great job with them. Just being able to take Tony Parker and being able to take Tim Duncan and Ginobili and actually extend them throughout their career, it's been great. And being able to actually mix up, bringing in young guys, but yet mixing it up with, veterans that know exactly what to do. Like a guy like Steven Jackson, he's not scared to go out there and guard Kevin Durant. He's not scared to go out there and guard Kobe Bryant. He's not scared to go out there and guard LeBron James. So I think whenever you're able to bring in that mix of youth with that mix of veteran talent, that was just they won me over with that. So yeah.
Right, and the thing that's really interesting too about this is Sam Presti, who's with the Thunder, came from the Spurs, and what he's been able to build with the Thunder the last few years. Not forget Kevin Durant and Westbrook and Hart. I know it's silly to say it, but all the other guys they have, Ibaka, and the list goes on and on. It's kind of what do you think about that? Did Presti learn all this from the Thunder? From the Spurs. How is this happening in the basketball world that there's so many great things happening from two men that worked for the same organization?
Well, you know what? Once again, I'm from Seattle. Make sure I throw that out there. But when I saw that, and this right here was years ago when they first brought in Sam Presti. When I read up on him and I found out that Sam Presti came from the Spurs organization, and I saw exactly what he was building with them, that let me know that the Thunder were going to be, or should I say the Sonics was going to be tremendous. And then they went down to Oklahoma City, and they brought in James Harden, and they brought in Ibaka. And I saw this, I said, man, these guys, they're serious. That's a serious organization. They've been in Oklahoma City for 4 years, and they've been to the Western Conference Finals twice.
Right. And, of course, this year they're trying to break that skid. According to, I think, all three of us, Clenari, that's not going to happen. But you never know. I was talking to someone last night who's in Israeli basketball here. He works in the front office for Rishon LeZion in one of the top squads here, and he was telling me when the Spurs can only play well for about 18 to 20 minutes and still win the game, that's not good for the rest of the NBA. What are your thoughts on that comment?
I agree with him. It's not good for the rest of the NBA. Whenever a team could just click. We always talk about teams being able to, turn it on and turn it off. And a lot of people always say, well, the Miami Heat and the Celtics, these guys, they got money. They can't turn it on and, turn it off. Well, the Spurs, on the other hand, they had it off. And then come about the fourth quarter, Greg Popovich was in the huddle, and he was talking to the guys. He said, are you guys having fun yet? And, I need to see some nasty.
Right.
And when he said those words, I think the team took it in. Tim Duncan and Parker and Ginobili, they kind of looked at each other and said, you know what? All right. And then on top of that, he inserted Steven Jackson into the lineup during the fourth quarter, and it got real nasty out there. And I saw what Greg Popovich was actually kind of hitting at. Are you guys going to go in there? Are you going to put your feet into the dirt, and are you going to really dig in and take this? Because as of right now, you guys are just kind of going through the motions. And when they quit going through those motions, boom, the Spurs, man.
Right, it was plus 20 or something. I mean, the Spurs were down by 10 in the third quarter, and you kind of were just kind of wondering what was going on. And then the fourth quarter was just domination. The defense was so, watching, Durant dribble the ball down and try and do what he usually does, take over games. He couldn't do it. He really couldn't do it. He couldn't dribble into the lane. They didn't let him in the lane. Timmy D and Ginobili and Jackson blocked the lane. I know there's a couple of plays where he fell on the ground or where he passed it to Westbrook. And Westbrook is the type of guy that can get very frustrated, Clenari. I know you agree with this, and we've talked about this. If things don't go his way, he can get very emotional. It can end up hurting the team.
Yeah, and against a player that is at sound, I say against two players that are at sound as Ginobili and Tony Parker, who Westbrook is going to have to be facing on a play-by-play basis, you do not want to be, out there losing your cool. Because the minute you lose your cool, they smell that type of blood, and they're going to go after it, and they do it in a very professional manner, and they just eat you alive, and I really, Tony Parker and Ginobili have been hounding. Matter of fact, Parker had a 42-point game during the season against Westbrook.
Right.
He had a 42-point game. So, he has all the confidence in the world. So the minute he sees him get off a little bit, a little smile gonna come out back to, Tony Parker's face, and he's gonna say, I got this.
Good stuff. All right, Clenari, we got to run, but before we do, give a plug for all listeners out there how they can find out more about your work.
Well, you guys can find out more about my work is, simply tuning in to, Israel Sports Radio.
That's right.
Week after week. I'll definitely be here. On top of that, go to JMC Sportsbook on Facebook, on Twitter. Go on ahead, check me out. I love talking to everybody. If you write me, I'm going to write you back. I like to have those types of in-depth conversations because I like to know exactly what the fans are thinking on top of what may be going on in my own head as well. So, definitely check me out, and I appreciate you guys.
Right, and Clenari, I believe you're going to be out of town next week, and so we're going to try and have you on again sometime this week.
All right, no problem. I appreciate it.
All right, Clenari, be well out there. Have a good one.
Thanks, Clenari.
All right, you too, Ari. All right. Bye-bye.
Peace. That was Clenari Carter, our Southern correspondent to the United States. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a break right now. Before we do, I want to remind everyone to go check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on the website.
It's pretty cool.
This is Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamic specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you For all your sports needs, call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Our thanks to Clenari Carter, our Southern correspondent to the United States, for breaking down the NBA postseason. It's really exciting stuff, folks. In the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals, 1-0 for the Spurs and the Heat, respectively. Long way to go. I think the Thunder will obviously give them much more of a fight to the Spurs than the Celtics will to the Heat. But if you want to jump ahead just for fun, I think the Spurs-Heat finals will be very, very thrilling because it's hard to see either one of those teams losing. Spurs are red hot. They haven't lost, as we talked about, in over 40 days. So it'd be hard to imagine them losing, hard to imagine LeBron James and Dwayne Wade losing. So it'll be a very competitive NBA Finals. But the Thunder and the Celtics will still have something to say about that. Dialing up our next guest, as at the moment, he is our Philadelphia insider, Ari Bluestein. You're live on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
Doing great. We're going to let Raphael start things off because you guys have a mutual man to talk about. Go ahead, Raphael.
Hey, Ari, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Raphael?
I am doing good, but I'm sad to see my boy, Roy Halladay, who I guess is not your boy, but he's really more my boy because I saw him for 10 years, injured. Or he's going to the doctor today. We're still waiting to hear some info about that. But this is a guy who, in his Blue Jays years, there was about 3 or 4 years where in July he just got hurt. So this is not good for Philly fans because this kind of reminds me of middle 2000s when he would get injured all the time. So do you have any inside scoop on his injury?
What we're hearing here in Philly is that, like you said, he's seeing the doctor today, and a lot of people are saying it's not really anything serious. It might just be some soreness, some tightness. So I think the feeling is he may miss like maybe 2 to 3 starts. I don't think it'll be anything more than that. But he is experiencing some soreness, and his velocity is down, so you definitely knew something was wrong. But what we're hearing in Philly is that he may end up on the 15-day DL and miss a couple of starts, but it shouldn't be anything more serious than that. But there's no confirmations yet, and we'll find out after today when he sees the doctor.
Right, and I know it's been a tough year for you because the injuries have really been an issue for your Phillies. I know we talk about this, I feel like, every week, but any update on Utley at second and Howard at first?
Ryan Howard right now is down in Florida at the Philadelphia Phillies spring training site in Clearwater, and he is working out. He's sprinting, he's hitting, he's taking ground balls. He has not been in any game action yet. So I think it's kind of like the spring training process that he's going through now, where you practice and you work out and you get game ready, and then you have spring training games, and then you go out to the big leagues for the regular season. So he's still a few weeks away at least. He still has to get into game action down there. Probably will play starting with the Clearwater Phillies, the single-A affiliate. They'll move up to Reading and potentially Lehigh Valley, the double-A and triple-A affiliates, respectively. So I think he's still a while away. I think Chase Utley is even further away. He is taking ground balls, and he is taking batting practice, but he is with the Phillies organization. He is with the team. So he's doing a lot of sitting around and watching games with his teammates. So he's doing less working out than Ryan Howard. So if I had to put a timetable on it, which it's really to do right now for both of them, I would say we're looking at about a month away for Ryan Howard and maybe 2 months away for Chase Utley.
Wow, so that's not good news for the last place Phillies right now, who are above 500 and only 4 games out. That's very important to note because with all the struggles, with all the injuries, that's pretty good. Wouldn't you agree? Are you only 4 games out with all these injuries?
I would agree, and especially the way the Phillies have lost some of these games this year. It's just been so frustrating, not hitting the ball, the bullpen blowing saves. I mean, the bullpen is something that not a lot of people are talking about, but there's a lot of issues. With the exception of Jonathan Papelbon, the new closer, a lot of question marks in that bullpen. Newcomer Chad Qualls from the Padres has been really shaky. Antonio Bastardo, who was really reliable last year, is starting to get in the groove now. And they brought up a couple of minor league guys, a couple of lefties with Raul Valdez and Jake Diekman. Valdez is a journeyman, Diekman is a rookie. So the Phillies are relying on those guys to step up and pitch well in the bullpen. And not to mention Vance Worley is also hurt, another guy in the rotation. So the Phillies really have been hurt, and they've been fighting through it. And I think a lot of Philly fans thought if we could hover around the 500 mark until Howard and Utley get back, and if they are maybe at 50%, maybe we got a shot to win the division, because as good as the division is, you're going to see everybody beat up on each other. The Nationals beat up on the Braves, but now the Nationals lost last night to the Miami Marlins. The Mets are playing well. Now the Phillies beat them. So I think it's going to be pretty even between all 5 teams, and honestly, you're going to see at least one wild card team come out of the NL East, I feel like. Maybe even both. You might get 3 teams in the NL East make the playoffs. So I like the Phillies' chances right now if they can get healthy. Of course, if Roy Halladay's down, that could be a major blow. But given all the injuries and the way they've been playing, I think the Phillies are in an okay position right now.
Right, and what you said about the 3 teams in the NL East, it could be the same in the AL East, in my opinion, especially with what the Orioles continue to do. But it definitely doesn't hurt, Ari, that the Braves have gone completely downhill. One win in the last 10 games. They're now right at the same level as your Phillies, and a kind of a surprise team in this division, the New York Mets, who are hanging in there, 2.5 out. David Wright's had an amazing season, and no one really expected anything from them this year. And they're kind of playing well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, and then Ari has some stuff he wants to discuss.
Yeah, the New York Mets, I think they're playing pretty good baseball. You mentioned David Wright. With Matt Kemp going down to injury,
right.
David Wright could be in the MVP running right now. He's batting near 400. He's really playing at a very high level, and of course he's great defensively in the field. So I think he's playing very good right now. The starting pitching for the Mets has been better than expected, I think. Dylan G has had a pretty good year.
Yes.
Jonathan Neese has had some good games and some bad games. And the bullpen has actually been decent. So, the Mets, I think, are playing well. Ultimately, I think they'll end up probably in 4th place in this division, 4th or 5th place. I know that's harsh given that they're in 2nd place right now, but I think the Marlins are starting to find their way. The Phillies will eventually find their way. And the Braves, they're struggling right now, but I think they'll find a way to be competitive within the division. I mean, it's just a very tough division right now, and I think everybody thought the Mets were going to be in 5th place no matter what happened with the other 4 teams, but they are definitely holding their own right now, and they are being competitive. So you have to give it to them. They're playing very well. They're exceeding expectations.
All right, I want to talk a little Cy Young talk. I know it's early, but Lance Lynn, my boy from the Cardinals, 8-1. So is Cole Hamels. Now, I know the RA is about 2.5. It's not as good as Beachy's from the Braves, but he's going to struggle a little bit at this point because he's 5-3 about winning the award. Again, long way to go. But talk about Cole Hamels' chances, especially if Holiday's going down. The guy for the Phillies would probably be Hamels. At this point, 8-1. He's thrown over 70 innings. I'm a big innings guy when it comes to figuring out who was the Cy Young winner. And right there with strikeouts, over 70 strikeouts as well. So talk about Cole Hamels versus Lance Lynn, or Cole Hamels versus the rest of the National League.
Well, I think if you had to pick a Cy Young today, Ari, I think you'd have to go between Hamels and Lance Lynn. I mean, Lance Lynn has pitched amazing, as well as the rest of the Cardinals staff. And Adam Wainwright maybe trying to find his way back in there. And Kyle Loesch has had a pretty good year as well. So I think the Cardinals are looking pretty good even without Albert Pujols. So you have to give it up to Lance Lynn. He's a big reason why the Cardinals, I know they fell out of first place, but they're near the top of that division, and I'm sure they'll compete for the division crown. Hamels has been very, very good for the Phillies. If it wasn't for Hamels, I think the Phillies would be in last maybe 8 or 9 games back of the Nationals right now. Cliff Lee went down with an injury. You have Halladay down with an injury now. Worley was down with an injury. Blanton's not, but he's cooled off a little bit. So if it wasn't for Hamels, really, the Phillies would be in trouble. And I feel like Hamels should get the Cy Young because of what he means to the Phillies at this point, given all the injuries. But if Lance Lynn would get the award at this point, I wouldn't be able to argue. And you mentioned Brandon Beachy. He's had a phenomenal year. He's really pitching very well. Like you said, the wins and losses have been down for him, and that's really a product of the way the Braves have been playing, the injuries that they've had. McCann was down for a little bit with an illness. Chipper Jones is out again. But Hamels versus Lynn, I have to go with Hamels. I'm sure since Lance Lynn is your boy, you would give the leg up to Lance Lynn, but I wouldn't be able to argue with you there.
Yeah, of course, Lance Lynn for sure. But no, it's a long way to go. But I love keeping an eye on this because you don't want to be in August or September and think, oh, where did he come from? I like to steadily keep pace with all of these contenders. Now, staying with Major League Baseball, another juror in the Roger Clemens trial has been excused. The first 2 for sleeping. Can you give us some insight on why this third juror was excused? It wasn't for sleeping, but can you tell us the reason why?
You know what? I just heard about it, and I did not hear the reason why. But this case, I'm getting sick of this case, to be honest with you. I mean, everybody knows that you just know Roger Clemens was using, and now they're just playing the runaround, and the jurors are sleeping. I mean, I don't know. I would love to be in that room and actually see what's going on, but I honestly did not hear why that third juror was excused. This is kind of a story that is on my back burner, Ari. I'm watching the games. I'm watching Major League Baseball and the NBA playoffs, so I'm kind of keeping it in my rearview mirror. So I have not heard the actual reason, but this case is just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we all know he did it. I think parts of us, or maybe most of us, would like some form of justice, especially since he lied about it, and see him maybe go to jail, pay a fine or something. But it's a bit of a soap opera going on with all these jurors being excused, falling asleep, what have you. All right, let's switch gears to the NBA. Sixers put a great run. They ended up losing to the Celtics, but in 7 games. I don't know how many people had the 76ers at the beginning of the postseason to go even to the second round, to be a game short of the East Finals. So talk about the 76ers, their run, and maybe some possible shakeups if they're going to add some pieces, trade some away. So what will happen with the Philadelphia 76ers in the offseason?
A lot of questions are going on with the Sixers right now. You have to take a look at the roster. You have Spencer Hawes. He's an unrestricted free agent. He will probably be gone to free up some cap space. You have Lou Williams, who has a player option, and from what I've heard, will most likely opt out of the final year of his contract, but would look to get another contract with the Sixers. I'm assuming for more money. And Elton Brand is in the last year of his contract, going into the last year of his contract, and a lot has been brought up about using the amnesty clause on Elton Brand. So if I was a betting man, I would say that Hawes, Brand, and Lou Williams would all be gone next year, and Sixers would look to land a big free agent. I know that there's interest in Darren Williams, Also, something that you maybe don't realize over there in Israel is that the Sixers were bought out by new owners at the beginning of this season, and these new owners are really pumped about trying to sell tickets and get Philly to be really supportive of the Sixers. And one thing that would really make that happen is to make a big off-season splash. So look for Roy Hibbert to be a guy in the discussion. He's a restricted free agent with the Pacers. Also, Chris Kaman, an unrestricted free agent center with the Hornets. Those are two big guys that I think the Sixers to add. But to go back to the series real quick, I think the Sixers really put up a nice fight with the Celtics. Ultimately, it came down to talent, and the Celtics just had too much, and the Sixers, their youth just took over, and the turnovers and the poor shot selection, unfortunately, did the Sixers in. But the fight and the defense that the Sixers played, that's something that Philly is certainly proud of, and we loved watching the Sixers during this short playoff run.
Yeah, it was really something inspirational for Philadelphia, I think, to see the 8 seed. Now, granted, the Bulls didn't have Derrick Rose, but to knock off the 1 seed and to play the Celtics so well, this could be the Celtics' last trip as the big three together. But the Sixers definitely had a chance to do it, and a lot to be proud of in the city of Philadelphia. Now, let's stay with the NBA and go to the Western Conference now. Spurs have not lost in over 40 days, red hot. Why did we not think about picking them at the beginning of the year? I think most people had the Heat or the Thunder, maybe the Lakers, maybe the Mavericks, but not everyone had the Spurs. This whole old thing is being really tossed out the window, and Tim Duncan's playing very well, Parker, the whole crew, and we could see the Spurs in the NBA Finals, just like we did the last time there was a lockout in '99. So why do we keep overlooking the San Antonio Spurs?
Well, if you look back at last season, the Spurs was the number 1 seed going into the playoffs, and they were bounced in the first round by the 8 seed Memphis Grizzlies. And I think everybody said, they had a nice run, but I guess they're just too old, and they can't play a full season, yada, yada, yada. But what people don't remember is that Ginobili was injured and did not play in that series. If I'm pretty sure if he did play, he wasn't very effective. So Ginobili is healthy. But that is a huge, huge boost. Tony Parker's playing an MVP level, and I think a lot of people wrote him off thinking that his best days were behind him. And Tim Duncan, same thing. A lot of people thought that his best days were behind him. And you look at the supporting cast for the Spurs, guys like Thiago Splitter. Neil, you guys were talking about him earlier. He went to Towson after transferring from LaSalle University, which is here in Philadelphia, so we're pretty familiar with Gary Neal here in the Philly area. And you look at some of the other guys, like Kawhi Leonard, the rookie. He's contributing a lot to the Spurs, on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. So the supporting cast, I don't think people thought that they would be as good as they are. And the big three, Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker for the Spurs, I don't think people thought they would be as effective. So you got to give the Spurs credit. They play great team basketball. They have the best coach in the NBA right now, in my opinion, and Greg Popovich. He's been doing it for years with the Spurs, putting guys together, finding the right roles for journeymen like a Steven Jackson type of player, and also a guy like Gary Neal, a player that maybe no team wanted. So you have to give them a lot of credit. They're playing great team basketball, but this is going to be a long series. I don't think the Spurs are going to go unbeaten for much longer. I think the Thunder will win in Game 2 or Game 3, and I think it will be a long series. You got to give the Spurs a lot of credit.
Absolutely, and it will be fun to see what does happen. And the Spurs look very, very good right now. They look like they're going to beat the Thunder. Of course, time will tell. Let's get your thoughts on the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 1, Miami takes it real comfortably, really easily. LeBron James answers a lot of Kevin Garnett's barking and is able to get the last laugh, if you will. Give us your breakdown analysis of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals.
When you look at Game 1, I think you have to kind of throw that out the window because the Sixers really wore the Celtics down. I mean, that was a war of a series, a defensive grinded-out battle, and the Celtics had 1 day to rest, and that was a travel. Boston, maybe it was at night, but whatever, didn't have a lot of time to rest. So I knew that the Heat, well-rested, obviously more talented, more athletic at this point in their careers, I knew that the Heat would win Game 1 anyway. But you got to look at Game 2. Now, the Heat rolled in Game 1. A lot of people are saying, okay, the Heat, they've got this one. They're going to roll into the NBA Finals. Let's just see if they're going to play Spurs or Thunder. but Boston could sneak up on them in Game 2. I think Paul Pierce has to shoot a little bit better, and with an extra couple of days rest, I think he will be able to maybe get to his top level and his game. Kevin Garnett had a pretty good game. Ray Allen, you don't really know what to expect from him, but Rajon Rondo, I looked a little tired in the game as well. I mean, he's been doing a lot of work in this series, especially with Avery Bradley out and Ray Allen battling the bone spurs injury in his feet. So I would not be surprised if the Celtics can steal Game 2. Ultimately, the Heat will win this series. I have no doubt that the Heat will ultimately win the series, especially with home court advantage. Maybe Chris Bosh comes back, Game 5, Game 6, somewhere in there. Maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But this series will be competitive. This will not be a walk in the park, I think, for the Heat. And again, your words, mark my words, the Celtics could upset in Game 2.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we have you on record for that. And our last question before we let you go, the NHL Finals, it's not the Rangers like a lot of people thought. It's going to be the Devils, the 6th-seeded New Jersey Devils, not too far from Philadelphia, taking on the 8th-seeded Kings. I don't know how many had that in their NHL brackets. Give us your thoughts on the NHL Finals before they begin.
We're kind of monitoring. Obviously, we hate to do this because it knocked us out. Number one, also there are during the season because they're pretty close in proximity. And the Kings have Mike Richards and Jeff Carter, two former Flyers. I think the Kings win this series. It's going to be a tight series. The Kings basically walked through the Western Conference, which is a shock to me. They were playing like they were the number one seed. Jonathan Quick's been playing out of his mind. He's been the best goalie in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And on the other side in net, you have Martin Brodeur, one of the best goalies of all time. So I think ultimately it comes down to the goalie play. If Jonathan Quick can keep up his stellar play, I think the Kings win. But if he kind of falls back a little bit and opens the door a little bit for the Devils and Brodeur steps it up, maybe it's his last hurrah to get a Stanley Cup title, maybe the Devils pull it out. But I'm going to go Kings in 6.
Kings in 6. Okay, so we have that prediction down. That sounds good. I'm going to make my official one at the end of the program. All right, we thank you for your time here on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com, and we look forward to doing it again real soon.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Ari, and sorry about your 76ers.
No problem. It was a nice run. We definitely enjoyed it, and now we'll turn our eyes to the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll see if we can make another playoff run.
Right.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Good luck.
All right, Ari, be well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ari.
All right, that was Ari Bluestein, our Philadelphia insider, and he likes the Kings in 6. It's interesting that the 8th-seeded team would be considered the favorite here, but it looks like that a lot of people are going to have that because they steamed so well through the Western Conference Finals.
And you know what, Ari? We actually had, when you were out last week doing your thing, we actually had an ESPN L.A. reporter who wrote for the Kings and covers the Kings. So we're going to have him on, I guess, this week. We're going to have to fit him in either this week or early next week to talk some Kings because he's been the sideline reporter there for a long, long time. Now he works for ESPN LA. We talked a lot of Kings on our last segment, so we're going to have to get him on. Okay, that sounds like good stuff there. All right, on the other side of this commercial break, the former NBA Coach of the Year, Del Harris. You're listening to Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here at Louis Live, we're about to dial up Del Harris. But before I do, again, I want to talk about the NBA Coach of the Year in 1995, the 94-95 season. This man has coached Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, and coached the 81 Houston Rockets to the NBA Finals where they played Larry Bird and the Celtics, and was an assistant with the Mavericks in 2000 to 2007 and went to the NBA Finals in 2006. So this is a very decorated coach. Also coached internationally, which Raphael will get more into as well. So we certainly appreciate Del's time, and we'll dial him up right now here live on the programs. And thank everyone for listening to Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com. We're in the 6 o'clock hour. I want to remind everyone, by the way, to check out our store by clicking on the store tab on the website of IsraelSportsRadio.com. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. It is good to be back after the holiday of Shavuot, and we appreciate you choosing to listen to us on your broadcasting day of all the broadcasting choices out there. So dialed up Del Harris as we speak again, the NBA Coach Year of 1994. And
automated voice messaging.
Okay.
2, 1, 4.
Let's try Del again. Here live at Louis Live, IsraelSportsRadio.com here. And if we don't get to Del, we'll take a break and try to set things up properly here. Hello, Coach Harris?
Hello. Yes.
Hi, Coach. This is Ari Louis. You're live on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
Oh, doing well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us your time. We know you're very busy, and there's so much to get into. I was telling the audience here in Israel about some of your accomplishments, and I want to get right into it. I want to first go to the 81 Rockets team that made it to the NBA Finals, and really impressive when you look at the fact it was a below 500 team, six-seeded team to get in to the playoffs, and was able to go on a tremendous playoff run and face Larry Bird in the NBA Finals. So if you could talk a little bit about the special, unique character of that team to be below 500 in the regular season, but yet still make it to the NBA Finals.
Well, first of all, it's never been done since. And, we got in
to the playoffs the night after the 81st game. And Golden State was in competition with us for the last spot, and they lost. So we had thought that we'd have to win the next night in San Antonio in order to have a chance to get in, and that they would have to lose a game. Well, they did lose, and we didn't have to win. So we got beat by about 25 that last game of the season. And but we had made a great run at the end of the season because that changed the lineup. We weren't going anywhere. We were scoring a lot of points, but we weren't winning enough games. And about third of the season, I inserted Billy Pultz into the lineup along with Moses Malone. So we started with what was really one of the first Twin Towers thing, although we had done it before, really, with a couple other 7-footers in the late 70s with the Rockets. But in this particular year, we put in 2 centers, and later on they became a lot more famous for having Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson as if they had it. But in any case, we slowed the game down. We were averaging 110 points. We dropped it down to where we're averaging about 100, and we just played a slower game, better defensive game, and got out at the end of the season. And first game we played was against the defending champion Lakers, and in those days only 12 teams made it, and that first round was only 3 games, and we beat them twice in the Forum to move on, and then we had to beat San Antonio, who had actually the best record in the East or West, and we had to take them. We took them to 7 games and beat them 3 times on their court, and then we played Kansas City and beat them in the Western Conference Finals, and then got up against the Celtics and took them to 6 games. So it was a team of older guys, smart guys, hard-working guys. We had, of course, Moses was 2-time MVP for us there, and then another time with Philadelphia. And Calvin Murphy, Hall of Famer, was our 6th man. And then everybody else was just a good role player. Mike Dunleavy and Billy Pultz, Bill Willoughby, another guy that had come straight out of high school in those days, Tommy Henderson, Al Level, and we had Rudy was on the team, and it was great.
That's actually what I want to get to. Rudy Tomjanovich and Mike Dunleavy, both on the ball club, and both future at the time. They were going to be NBA coaches. They, of course, have been NBA coaches at this point. Very good NBA coaches. Rudy, of course, winning 2 titles. Mike Dunleavy going to deep in the playoffs several times. When you were coaching those gentlemen, did you see a certain sense that, hey, they have a special basketball IQ or basketball mind, and they could one day be very, very great, very good NBA coaches?
Well, the proof is in the pudding, as they say here. I hired both of them to be my assistant coaches. So as soon as Rudy retired, after the 81 season, I made him, first of all, scout, and then the next year, assistant coach. Back in those days, there was only one assistant coach. So then they allowed me to make him assistant coach the next year, along with Carol Dawson, who I'd hired as assistant coach in '79, who went on to become the assistant coach there for a number of years, and then the very successful general manager, and of those championship teams. But I hired Rudy to be my assistant coach, and then Mike Dunleavy still had some years left. He kept playing on, and I got him up in Milwaukee as a player when I was working for Milwaukee then after the Rockets, and when he retired as a player, well, he was working on Wall Street, and when I took over as head coach, at the Bucks, I got him off Wall Street and made him my assistant coach. And so altogether, I was with Rudy 7 years, and with I was 5 as a player and 2 as a coach, and with Dunleavy 9 years, 6 as a player and 3 as a coach.
And as you mentioned, going to Milwaukee after the Rockets, and were able to take the Bucks to the postseason while you were coach there. And Milwaukee in the '90s and the last decade has not had a lot of success. You were one of the few coaches really to bring some success to the Bucks. So talk about how you were able to do that. A lot of times people might not focus on the Bucks in the late '80s because you had the Celtics and the Pistons in the Eastern Conference, but certainly a formidable foe against those teams. So what was your secret to having success in Milwaukee?
Well, at Milwaukee, when I went there, it was like the Rockets. We had an old team. We had the oldest team in the league at that time, and but which was a negative. But they were just intelligent. They were so smart. It's the smartest team overall that I ever had. And in the '80s, we had the 4th best record in the league. Don Nelson coached more of those games than I did. I started working with Don in 1983 and then took over as head coach in '87. But as you said, the teams that had the 3 best records in the league were the Lakers, Celtics, and Sixers, and we couldn't get past both the Celtics and Sixers in the '80s, even though, as I said, we compiled the 4th best records in the league. But we just had a very, very smart team. Sidney Moncrief, in general, those years was the leader of the team in the locker room and on the court until he finally just gave out ultimately from all the years of hard work. But at one time, in the 88-89 season, I had 9 guys on that team in my team picture, including Dunleavy, my assistant, but who I activated from time to time as a player whenever I had injuries. 9 of those guys became coaches in the NBA. I doubt that that's ever happened. I've looked at some of the team pictures and stuff, and I think that's the most guys. I'm very proud that my 12 years as head coach in the NBA, that 11 of my assistants went on to become head coaches in the NBA, and that I coached over 50 guys as either a head coach or assistant coach that have gone on to become coaches either in the NBA or in NCAA Division I. So those things are really more important to me, those relationships and things like that, than the games that we might have won.
And not only did you have so many coaches that went on to success as being under you, but of course you won Coach of the Year in 1995 with the Lakers. Interesting year because Nick Van Exel was the star of the ball club, but you had Magic Johnson come out of his retirement towards the end of the year. So, again, you go up against Magic Johnson when you remember that when you coached the Rockets, now you're coaching him, and kind of an interesting situation because Magic brings all that stardom as he should. He's Magic Johnson, but Nick was kind of more the catalyst of the team. So how are you able to mold that all together to do well with the Lakers and win your Coach of the Year award?
Well, now I got the Coach of the year before.
Okay.
In 94, 95, and Magic came in 95, 96.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyway, we had a very young team, super young team in 94, 95 that I had taken Magic Johnson's place as coach. That's the further irony of it.
Right.
He was, they had finished in the lottery the year before I went in 93, 94. So 94, 95. We had Vlade Divac, Eldon Campbell, Cedric Ceballos, Nick, Eddie Jones as a rookie, and just a nice young team. George Lynch, Anthony Peeler, and we won 48 games and won the first round of the playoffs, and so on and so forth. The next year we lost Sam Bowie, who I didn't mention, but I had used Sam in rotation in the big spots, the 4 and 5 position with Moses and Eldon Campbell, and it really worked well. Well, Sam retired, and so by that time Magic wanted to play again, and he had, of course, been out, but he'd gotten up to about 265 pounds, and so we needed a big man. He said, hey, he was a 4% owner of the team at the time. He had to divest himself. I asked the young guys if they wanted him on. They said, well, yeah, we do. And so he agreed that he'd be a power forward for us. And, he did a good job. We didn't go anywhere. We had things happen at the end of the year. Nick got suspended for pushing a referee with 7 games to go, and then Magic himself got suspended for bumping a referee with 3 or 4 games to go. And we got beat by a good Rockets team in the playoffs. And then the next year we got Shaq and Kobe, and it still had, very young players. And, in fact, there's 2 of them are still playing today, Fisher and Kobe, and Shaq just quit last year, and then most of the rest of them, Eddie Jones and Rick Fox and Robert Horry, they played up until the last 3 or 4 years. So we had a great young team.
Ed, I want to go to the 98 team, the 4 All-Stars, Dick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, Shaq, and Kobe, where interesting situation. Kobe Bryant, 19 years old. He didn't start for the Lakers, but he was a starter in the All-Star game for the West in the game in Madison Square Garden. So what were your thoughts about how to bring Kobe in to the NBA, where you give him enough playing time, but not too much where he would wear out, since he was not used to playing 82 games, obviously coming from high school. So what was your secret to bringing Kobe Bryant in slowly, where he would end up being the superstar that he is today?
Well, I'd say basically in those days he hated me for it. He didn't show it, but I know that it was hard for him and his dad for him to be a reserve on our team. But there were a couple of things about that. Number one, Kobe did not come into the league with the same developed body, say, that a player like Moses had done, or particularly LeBron James did. And LeBron came in with a man's body. Kobe came in with a teenage body, and his skill level just wasn't up to what our level was. You got to understand now, he came into a team the first year, his rookie year, we won 56 games, and that doesn't sound just overwhelming, except Shaq missed 32 games, and we were still good enough to win 56 games. And then the next year, his second year, we won 61 games with Shaq missing 21 games, and so you can't come in to an outstanding team like that. We had tied for the second most wins in the league with Shaq missing all those games, and become a starter. At that point, Eddie Jones was an all-star and was a better player, and Rick Fox was our tough guy, our defender, who could also, he had an all-around game. Rick was an outstanding player, and Kobe, backed up those 2 guys, and he got in the first year. He only averaged 7 points a game, and the next year he averaged 50. And how he got in the All-Star game, though, that's a funny story. Every year or 2, they changed the method of who gets to vote for All-Star players. That particular year, the voting took place at McDonald's. Well, all the kids in the world, I guess, voted for the kid, and he was voted into the starting lineup from Burger King, or not Burger King, but McDonald's, one or the other, burger joint. And so here it was. I had 3 guys that were selected, one, they were either voted in or, like Shaq was voted in, and Eddie and Van Exel were picked by the coaches, and then Kobe was voted in by the kids. So it was kind of hard. Anyway, for him, because now he came back as an all-star, and he goes right back to the bench.
Right, and I remember Bob...
It was better for him to start slowly, though. It really was. I mean, he understood early on he had to refine his game and do it the right way to get to play because the team was too good. Everybody wanted to play, and I tell you, I sacrificed the playing time of a guy named John Barry, who was actually a better player at that particular point. Now, I'm just saying, at that particular point,
right.
John was more developed in his game than Kobe, but I didn't play John hardly at all and gave Kobe as many minutes as I possibly could that second year.
I still remember Bob Costas famously saying he doesn't start for his own team, but he'll be starting for the Western Conference All-Stars. But obviously, time proved that your method was correct, obviously, with Kobe Bryant's success and certainly one of the greatest careers in NBA history. I want to go to the Mavericks because you're with them from 2000 2007. And Mark Cuban is so beloved here in Israel. Apparently, I think he has a dog named Matzo Ball or something like that. He's got, has cousins that came and fought for the Israeli army. So I want to know, when you were there with the Mavericks, not only did you see Dirk's development really come from being drafted as a 19-year-old kid in 98, his development took off. You go to the NBA Finals in 06, but also I want you to talk about Mark Cuban's ownership style because it's certainly unique among the other owners and was able to get success. I mean, the Mavericks were a laughingstock in the 90s, and they won a title last year. 06 went to the finals. So I want you to talk a little bit about both Mark Cuban and Dirk Nowitzki.
Well, I was fortunate to be brought in just 6 weeks after Mark took over the team. He took over the team somewhere in January, and I came in March, first week or so of March, and can't remember the exact dates of either one. But there were 20 games left, I can tell you that, when I came in, and he wanted Nelly, who was Don Nelson, who was coaching the team, to hire me and see if we could get our defense being a little better. They weren't playing very well, and anyway, we took off. Those last 20 games, we won 15, ended up 40 and 42. That did not make the playoffs, and so then Don had figured on just retiring to be the general manager, but we got hot like that, and he said, hey, we ought to try to stay on, blah, blah, blah. So we did, and Mark gave us good new contracts, and so I stayed on for 8 years. Nelly left after 4 or 5, but in any event, we saw the emergence of a wonderful, wonderful player in Dirk Nowitzki. Had the same work ethic that Kobe Bryant had. I've been fortunate to have been with some of the greatest workers in the game, and Sidney, Moncrief, as I noted, and on, Moses Malone, and but so many others. The good ones are hard workers. Now, speaking of hard workers, that's Mark Cuban, and Mark came in with all the enthusiasm in the world, and he was a fan first, and all that. Brilliant man. And he has, early on he was a little bit over-exuberant, probably, but his enthusiasm caught on. He was willing to spend some money to get players and to try to make our environment really attractive to players, and he did that. And over the years, he's calmed down. He's gotten married, has 3 kids, good family man, and he has been really loyal to his players and very encouraging, and he's really good with the coaches. Even though we've had 3 coaches since he came, Nelson, Avery Johnson, and now Rick Carlisle, but he was very supportive of all the coaches, and really Nelly and Avery both kind of put themselves in positions and where Mark just felt like, he had to let them go. But Mark has had a wonderful leadership style and has proven himself to be one of the great owners.
Hi, Del. It's Raphael. I want to thank you again so much for joining us today on the program.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And
I want to ask you a little bit more, if that's okay, Del.
Sure.
As a fellow Hoosier, I know you were in Indiana for a while. I grew up there for a bit, and so I just want to say it's an honor to interview such a well-known Hoosier.
Where in Indiana did you come from?
I was my father was a professor at Indiana University, and so I grew up learning about Bobby Knight, and I actually played pickup ball with Scott May all my childhood.
Oh, so, good. Yeah. I'm from Indiana, and of course I have my master's degree from Indiana University, so it's all good.
So go Hoosiers. Ari talked to you a lot about everything you accomplished in the NBA, but for our listeners in Israel that are huge on European basketball or national basketball, I want to kind of get into that with you over the next 7 minutes. I want to start with now and then move back to where you began. Right now, you are coaching a very, very unknown Dominican Republic team along with Coach Cal that has a lot of talent. And so I want you to tell our listeners more about this team and what you're expecting them to accomplish.
Well, I'm very proud to have worked with 5 different countries' national teams, the Dominican Republic being the 5th one, United States team in the World Games of '98 with Rudy Tomjanovich, the Canadian club in '94 World Games, the Puerto Ricans in Central Basket and back in '74, and China in the Olympics of 2004. So my international ball goes way back. One of the early guys to be international from the United States, and this team is, like you say, a good team. We got Al Horford as our center, wonderful player. Francisco Garcia with Sacramento Kings is one of our forwards, and the rest of our players are all just really good, solid players who play in Europe mainly. A couple of them play in South America as well. But we got 3rd place last year in that pre-Olympic trial in Argentina, behind Argentina and Brazil, and that qualified us for this final pre-Olympic event that will be in the first week of July in Venezuela, and 3 teams will go from there. And we know it's going to be a hard tournament. We got Russia in there, Lithuania, Macedonia, so forth. But we're hoping that we can continue the play that we had last year. That was the first medal the Dominicans ever won in a big international event, and like that. And so, Coach Cal, of course, is one of the great coaches in the history of the game. A very close friend of mine. Over the last 20 years, we've worked together in Asia, South America, Europe, in clinics and things. And so it's great to be involved in international basketball.
Right, and something that's funny, Coach Harris, I was looking at your lineup of this team, and there's a lot of former Louisville players, Edgar Sosa, Francisco Garcia. So I just think it's kind of ironic now how, of course, the University of Kentucky coach is coaching them. But I really, as an international basketball fan and also as a big college basketball fan, I really like the squad. I really like the guys from Louisville, a lot of really great guards, and especially Francisco Garcia, I believe he was on that Final Four team in Louisville. If you don't mind, Coach, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that really big victory when you were the coach of the Chinese national team over Serbia, which at the time were one of the top basketball teams in the world with all the history they've had with Peja and Vladi, and the list goes on and on. So you took an Asian team and beat them in the 2004 Olympic basketball tournament. So how are you able to get your players on the China team to believe that they could beat a European squad?
Well, that's an interesting thing. Yes, we got to the final day of preliminaries, and each of us, Serbia and China, had to win to move on to the medal round. And they were the defending world champions. They had won the Worlds in 2002 in Indianapolis. Here's the thing. I think they overestimated their ability and underestimated our ability, particularly that of Yao Ming. And the other teams that we had played that had beaten us had really smothered Yao as best they could. I mean, they just attacked him with 2 and 3 guys and dared everybody else to beat them. Serbia felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking maybe they thought that was kind of beneath them, that they didn't have to do that they could take us on straight up. And Yao Ming threw 35 down on them, and we beat them in I forget the final score, but it was around 68, 67 or something like that, 70, 79, 69 at one point. And really, we did it on the strength of just Yao Ming more than anything else. Plus, the kids that we had, and again, I took a young team there because the purpose of their hiring me was to try to get the team reasonably competitive with young guys so that they could compete better in Beijing in 2008, which they did a nice job in Beijing, and my assistant coach from 2004 stayed with them then, the Lithuanian Jonas Kazlauskas, a great coach.
Right.
And he stayed for 4 years, and they were very competitive in 2008. They finished 8th again, but they were when they got beat, they were, you know, the scores were closer than when they got beat when I coached them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that's I think should be noted, is that you go to these places and you don't stay for long because you kind of build a foundation there, and then a lot of the teams that you've coached have really kind of flourished. You look at a team. I also have Canadian citizenship, so I'm a huge Canadian basketball fan, and people right now in Canada are really talking about what the future holds for this team. There's so many young guys right now in college.
Yes.
Mike Kabongo at Texas, Tristan Thompson on the Cavs. So things are very exciting right now. So also as a Canadian citizen, I know you were a special consultant for the team a few years ago, and you kind of helped build the foundation there, and now they're really flourishing. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you're absolutely right. Corey Joseph is a nice young player. Also played in the D League this year, which, as you know, I coach in the D League here in our hometown, Frisco, Texas, which is the affiliate minor league team of the Mavericks. And so I've actually stayed, you know, close to the Mavericks for since 2000. But at any rate, the Canadian team, I was actually helped coach that team as well. Ken Shields, I was on the bench with them in the World Games in Toronto, and was with them in 93, 94 as their consultant advisor, but also coached on the court with them. And we had a young fellow by the name of Steve Nash, and we had Rick Fox, and that's how I got to know Rick enough that I convinced Jerry West to trade for him and to bring him to the Lakers when he became a free agent. But Steve was on the junior team when I went up there, and when I saw him play, I said, I'll tell you one thing, you got to move that kid that's on the junior team up, because he's better than the ones you got on the senior team here. And they did. And I'm really high on what I think the Canadian team can do in the next Olympic series. They're not going to make it this time, obviously, but
right.
In that next rotation, I think they will be one that will get in.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question I wanted to ask you, Coach, have you ever, I mean, you've been around international basketball for so long, but do you have any specific thoughts about the Israeli national basketball team or some players in Israel that you've gotten to scout or play against? I'm sure our listeners would be very thrilled to hear your opinion on that or your thoughts.
Well, I'm not that familiar with the Israeli team at this time. I've just been so occupied with the development league team and so forth that I don't have to look at the college or the other teams out there. But used to follow the Maccabees and so forth, so on. I'm familiar. I've been there. I actually coached. I spent a month in Tel Aviv back in 1974-75.
Wow.
When there was the European Professional Basketball League and the Israeli Sabras and then Herb Brown was the coach, and Emil Carr played for him and so forth. I coached the Barcelona team in that particular league, and we trained in Israel at the country club prior to the opening of that season.
All right, well, great stuff, Coach. We certainly appreciate the time here on Louis Live and Israel Sports Radio. It was really, really a lot of fun to go through both the NBA and your international career. And, again, we can't say enough about you giving us your time. We know you're very busy. So thank you again so much, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Nice talking to y'all, and best wishes to all of you. Shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that was Coach Del Harris, the former NBA Coach of the Year. We're going to stay here and not break for commercial and dial up our next guest. We've actually had him on Louis Live before. He is the author of Bummy Davis and Murder Incorporated. So we're going to get him up in a few moments. And our thanks to Coach Del Harris, former NBA Coach of the Year, for appearing on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Hi, am I speaking with author Rod Ross?
Speaking.
Hi, you're live on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
Fine. How are you doing out there?
We're doing great, and it's great to have you back on. Of course, we had you on a few months ago, and we've had a lot of great feedback from that interview, so we wanted to bring you back on here on the program. And for those of you that are listeners that are listening for the first time, tell us a little bit about your book. It is Bummy Davis versus Murder Incorporated. Bummy Davis, of course, a boxer in the 40s, grew up with a lot of people that would end up being in organized crime in the underworld. And Bummy, of course, had to work very hard to stay away from that. So tell us a little bit about your book, and so our listeners can get a better understanding of it.
Okay. Actually, I wrote the book back in 1994. I started working on the book, but I had a lifelong fascination with Bummy Davis because of my cousin Erwin K. Kaplan, who was a fighter, came in from California and trained at Beach's Gym where Bummy trained, and he basically introduced me to Bummy Davis, and it was through that meeting that I seem to have a link to his life right through till the very end. In fact, when I started writing the book, though, I was writing a book about a young man who was in some way linked to crime. But when I found out by meeting his original trainer, Vic Zimmett, who was a really stand-up, upright person, he was the first president of the Metropolitan Amateur Boxing Association, and it turned out that Vic was Bummy's first trainer, and he opened the doors to the world of Bummy Davis and to me, and I just went out and had to write this book about a young fighter who I had known since I was 7 years old. In fact, when Bummy was gunned down at the age of 25, it happened 5 blocks from my house, and I still remember I was eating breakfast when the news came on the radio, and I jumped on my bicycle and raced over to the place where it happened, which it happened about 2 o'clock in the morning, and this is now 7 in the morning, but it was still cordoned off, and I believe from that time, at this time I was now 13 years old, I said I had to tell the world about the Bummy Davis that I knew. Only the Bummy Davis I knew expanded tremendously as I was brought into his world by Vic Zimmett. And it was there that I learned what a truly wonderful person he was, rather than the gutter snipe and punk that he was drawn out to be by the sports writers of the day. And back then, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have blogs. The word of to a young man, the word of a sports writer such as Dan Parker, Jimmy Cannon, or Jimmy Powers. It was next to the Bible in believability. And there seemed to be almost a scenario that was set up to make evil versus good. And they took young Albert Davidoff, ring name Al Bummy Davis, and drew him as the villain. And it was an easy task to do because when he turned professional, his first professional fight, his promoter, Johnny Attell, who liked Bummy very much, and actually, at that time, it was Bummy, named Albert Davidoff. His Yiddish name was Avram. And for the kids in Bronzeville, where he grew up, Avram was a very common name, but it broke down into the street as Vrummy and Bummy. And Bummy was the street name that he was known as throughout the years until his first professional fight when Johnny Attell took Bummy and made it Bummy, which upset young Albert Davidoff very much. Why are you calling me a bum? He said, I'm not calling you a bum. He said, Albert, we're doing this to sell tickets, to make you a star attraction. And that villain tag stayed with him and was built up. And, you know, let me put it this way. Albert Davidoff, Bummy, was not a saint. But he had his trademarks of not his refusal to be pushed around and a hair-trigger temper. They were both his trademarks and also his eventual tragic downfall. But that was his way. And as a young boy, he first met Abe Rullis, who was the head of what became known the contract killing arm of the syndicate. He met him because his own brother Willie was connected with the mob. And from the beginning, he took an immediate dislike to Abe Rullis. And this grew throughout the years. Whenever they would meet, there was this hostility between them. And it set up this inevitable collision course, which eventually turned into the downfall of Murder Incorporated. Bummy Davis, as is pointed out in the book, was the catalyst to this downfall. And I tried to bring all of this out in the book, and I did, and it's a tremendous sense of gratification that I have right now that on April 29th, because of my book and all the information that came out because of it, Al Bummy Davis was inducted into the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in the United States. And I can't begin to tell you how good that makes me feel, that his family now walks around with their heads held high. I met his son, Charlie, became quite friendly with him. Charlie was 2.5 years old when his father was murdered.
Wow.
He never knew anything really about his father other than what other people knew, what came out in the newspapers, all the vilification. Al Bummy Davis is probably the most maligned, misunderstood, and misrepresented athlete of his era. And to see this all turned around and have him exposed as a person that he truly was, a good, tough kid who stood up for what he believed in. He was, by the way, he was very loyal and close to family. His two brothers were mob connected. And Bummy loved them as family. But he chose a different path.
Right.
He could not walk the road that they did. From the time he was 8 years old, this kid was working first in his father's candy store. When he was 10 years old, he was already running a pushcart on Blake Avenue. He was the youngest pushcart peddler in the neighborhood at the time, and he became so respected among the other pushcart peddlers. He was a young kid, but they respected him as one of them because of who he was. And he was never, by those who knew him, he was never linked to his brothers other than the fact that they were family. And Bummy Davis, as a kid, also had the largest collection of Jewish records. He loved cantorial music. And he used to go to a music store on Rockaway Avenue in Bronzeville, and whenever he had money in his pocket, he would buy up all of the Yiddish records that he could get his hands on. And he wanted to be he wanted to be in the choir at the synagogue in his neighborhood. And this is the kind of kid he was. And my ability to be able to bring it out in the book by going and meeting all of those people who are connected to him in his life, again, gives me a tremendous sense of gratification.
Right, and I'm sure that his son was very happy that you could kind of present another angle. We're on right now with author Ron Ross. And Ron, this interview has to be short because we have such a crazy schedule today, but I want our listeners to know, how can they pick up your book? How can they find it? Where can they get it?
Well, I guess the easiest way to tell you is Amazon.com has it. And, again, I don't know if the stores in Israel are carrying it, but they're on the bookshelves in local stores in the United States. But the easiest way to get it is through Amazon.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, Ron, we certainly thank you for your time. It was great to have you back on the program on Louis Live, and we'll have to do it again in the future.
Louis, it was just wonderful being with you again. And again, I'll look forward to the future then.
Sounds great.
Looking forward to it. And we'd love to have you on and talk about some of the big fights going on lately. How does that sound?
Well, that sounds good to me.
Great.
All right, Rod.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Rod. Be well.
You too. Bye now.
All right, that was Ron Roth, author of Murder Incorporated versus Bobby Davis. And it was great to have him on the program. As I mentioned, we had such great feedback the last time he was on the program.
A guy who's well known in the boxing community has a vote in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Very interesting guy. Our next guest, we actually, guys, we taped an interview with him, but it didn't work out, and it was such an interesting story, even for Ari, and you guys know Ari's not a big college basketball fan.
That's correct.
That we wanted to have him live on the air, wanted to make sure everyone could hear it. So we're going to be calling Mr. Young, Jatim Young, who played for Northwestern and has had a great career in Israel. And we will be dialing them up right now. Just for our listeners out there who just are tuned in, the next 30 minutes are going to be very intense but very great. We're going to have Jatim Young, who's a professional basketball player, writing his first book. At 12 o'clock, we're going to have a special guest from California. At 12:15, we're very, very happy that we are going to have Zaza Pachulia of the Atlanta Hawks on. And at 12:30, we're going to finish with, I believe, SiriusXM. He does a lot of stuff, broadcaster Ed Cohen. So great show. Please stay with us. And we are going to call Mr. Young right now. And a lot of great stuff to talk about with him.
Okay, I want to mention, check out our store, Israel Sports Radio store, and click on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. A lot of great items there. Once again, the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. Had a great show so far. Clenari Carter, Ari Bluestein, and more.
Hi, I'm speaking with Mr. Young.
Yes.
You are on You're on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for joining us. I was just telling our listeners, we were taping an interview with you. We got disconnected a couple of times, and it was such a great story that we wanted to make sure it was on our live show. We've had such a great basketball show. We had Coach Del Harris on, the 1995 NBA Coach of the Year, and then in about 30 minutes we are going to be having Zaza Pachulia on from the Hawks. So thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. I'm happy to join.
And I remember we kind of talked a lot about a lot of stuff earlier, but we're going to have to repeat it so our listeners can hear about it. And for our listeners who don't know, you're one of the top-ranked guards coming out of high school. You had offers from everywhere around the country, and you actually decided to stay in your hometown, Northwestern, play for the Wildcats, and take them to a new level. So could you please tell our listeners why you made that decision to stay in Chicago and play in the Big Ten?
I think growing up, I really loved playing in the Big Ten. Watching it on TV all the time, watching schools like Michigan State and Michigan, watching that great Fab Five team with Jalen Rose and Chris Webber. When I was a kid watching it, I always knew that I was going to be a part of the Big Ten. When I got to the stage where I really became a sensational guard in the high school basketball ranks, in the United States. Kevin O'Neal, who recruited me, also became an NBA coach. I really felt that the vision that he had for Northwestern was going in that direction that they are right now, as far as, making tournament and getting players there to help, build a program. So, just being close home, playing in front of my friends and family, I felt that, I was going to take the school to another level, which I did. But it was just been nice to, kind of play with the guys that are going right now, that are attending the school right now. That's all I had them during the time I was playing.
Right, and I'll be really honest with you. Huge IU Hoosier fan, and 10 years ago, Indiana's playing Northwestern. Who cares? We're going to beat them. It's not going to be a close game. But in the last 5-6 years, Indiana's playing Northwestern. I mean, this year there's so many great players. Thompson, or even throughout the years, a lot of great players, some great players from Europe. So really, you went there, you built a foundation. I know they've still haven't made the tournament, but they've been very, very close. They were very, very close this year. They've made the NIT. So really, what your goal, to go there and kind of start a new chapter for Northwestern as a fan of Indiana, who's won 5 national championships, 20 Big Ten championships. You really, I want to thank you because you added more competition to the Big Ten.
Gentlemen, both
And sorry, we're having some technical issues here, but we're going to get rid of it. Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Young. But yeah, so that's great. The next thing I want to ask you about, you spent 4 years at Northwestern. You had a lot of great awards. You start off as a third-team All-Big Ten, which is impressive. And then by your senior year, I believe, first-team Big Ten with a lot of impressive guys that year. What was it like going to Northwestern and winning these awards, not just for yourself, not just for your community, but for the school Northwestern, who wasn't used to having a first-team All-Big Ten or a guy who averaged 18 points a game? What was that like personally? What was that like for everyone in Northwestern and for you?
I think it was great because by me going to Northwestern, I think it allowed me to show that Northwestern can produce, great talent. And I think by being a first-team All-Big Ten player and all-tournament player, and pretty much every tournament that I played in my senior year, I was like on a all-tournament team. It just kind of opened eyes that it is some NBA talent and some good quality players at Northwestern. So it just opened up that exposure that we weren't getting. We got an opportunity to play Darren Williams and Brian Cook, Luka Head, those guys at Illinois on CBS Sports. Right. So, it was the first time in school history that happened.
Yeah, and wow, it's blast in the past. That team, Luther Head was with the Rockets for a while, and of course, Ron Williams now is top 5 point guard, and D. Brown actually played in Israel, I believe, for a couple of years.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yeah, he's the one who convinced me to go over to Israel and play.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, D. Brown and Will Bynum actually were two guys that really convinced me to go to Israel because I was a little skeptical about going over there to begin with, but I'm happy I did go.
Right, and you've really certainly been a star in Israel. You've been one of the top players, and I wanted to ask you about that, about your professional career. You've gone to play in a lot of places around the world, a lot of places, a lot of different clubs, a lot of different arenas. What is it like? What kind of mindset is it, one day playing in a team in Europe and then now playing in Israel and not knowing where you're going to play next year? I mean, what is it like for you as a basketball player to have that feeling?
I mean, it's different because it's different, ways you're being accepted.
Right.
Playing in Greece, I should say. Playing against Olympiacos, Panathinaikos. I'm playing against the top team. I'm playing against massive arenas. We upsetting and beating some of these teams. And then you go to a league where, I get to play on a Europe Cup team in Belgium and Mons, and our arena is like 4,000 fans and stuff like that, and we get to travel to other countries and play teams. And then you come, I kind of went through an injury process, and you come out of that, and then you go to Israel, and it's like you love the country, you love the league and everything. The players are pretty competitive, but it's like not playing like with Maccabi or playing with Jerusalem.
Right.
And you know your ability and talent, but you playing fans and
like against teams like Ramadan and some of the other pretty good teams in like the second league, and you just trying to show like coaches and show agents and show fans that you're really an elite player in the league. So I mean it's fun like when you kind of go through that process of not knowing, but it's also challenging, and I think it's like basketball is life, because life is challenging. One day you could be at one level, and the next day it could be another. But it's up to you to really kind of determine where you end up and how far you can go in the game.
Absolutely, and I mean, I was looking a little bit more of where you've played, and it's not even Europe and Israel. You've also played in the Dominican Republic and some smaller countries in Europe, like Hungary, but also in a huge basketball country as Greece. So it's really interesting to sit down with a guy like you, and I guess not sit down, but have an interview with someone who's experienced so much in the world of basketball. You said it best: playing Euro Cup in Panathinaikos with 12,000 crazy Greeks. I know that's a crazy experience. You probably could go to Assembly Hall in Indiana. It would be just as crazy in Assembly Hall as it would be in Panathinaikos. So that leads to my next question. Do you ever feel to yourself that it's a little overwhelming, always moving on and making friends with the trainers of the team and the head coaches and the players? I mean, how is that like, always having to be on the move? There's a lot of great parts to it, but I also want to talk about the cons, if you don't mind.
I think basketball in itself is a fraternity, and I think it's also, I mean, it's great when you get to go to different countries, different teams, and you meet new people. Because you never know, like, one day down the line, they might need your help, you might need their help, or, you might want to take a family trip or something like that, or talk to people about, these different places. And it's great because I've experienced these places, I get to write about them, I get to talk about them, I have a thorough experience and appreciation of these different cultures, and it's also with them accepting me because I'm from a different culture and I'm totally different. So it's like a give and take thing. It's like, you learning, and also you're helping and inspiring, but then you're being inspiring and you're different.
Right. And
it's an experience that
Are you there? Are you with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we seem to be having some problems, but I'm going to ask you the next question. I hope you can still hear us. You've been in Israel now for 2 years. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, what it's like being in Israel, because of course you've been to a lot of places, but I gotta say, okay, we are gonna try and call Mr. Young back. We seem to have had a couple of problems with him, even the last time we taped. But it's fine. We had him for 10 minutes. We're gonna hopefully get him back on and have him for about 5 more minutes. And we were gonna do Skype with him, but we figured that'd be too complicated. Hi, you with us again?
I think we got disconnected.
Yeah, and it's funny. Maybe if you're in Chicago, maybe it's the connection in Chicago, because we've already had a lot of guests on today and nothing's happened. But again, I was just telling our listeners we had you on for 10 minutes, so we want to have you on for about 5 more minutes. What I was asking you, you've been in Israel for 2 years, and Israel's a different country. Israel's not like Dominican Republic and Hungary and Greece, security-wise, people-wise. So I just wanted you to tell our listeners what it's like playing in a country with all these things that no other country in the world has to offer.
Well, I mean, every country is unique and different in its own way. So I think, again, it just goes with that, they're just feeling with having a lot to offer, but it's an experience that no one can take away from you. It's like if, somebody from Israel came to Chicago or came to New York or L.A. and experienced that, it'd be something that totally different from Israel, but totally different from anywhere else you ever been. So, it's about growing, and the more you see, the more you're around, the more you grow as an individual.
I think we are having, again, some technical problems.
Yeah.
Oh, you're still there. You're still there with us. Okay, I want to ask you the most important. We seem to be having problems, and I really want to ask you the most important question that really is why we got you on the show. Not that, you have amazing things to say, but your book, which is, I've done a lot of research on it, and I want to tell our listeners the name of it. It's called, you're working on it right now, Monologues of a Good Man. It's about the challenges of growing up in West Side Chicago, where there's so much gang violence and all that stuff, what you've been able to accomplish as an athlete, love everything. So please tell our listeners all about that book, when it's coming out, how we can buy it, how Israel Sports Radio can help you spread the word, because we love to do that.
Well, I'm definitely writing probably like, I think one of my last chapters in the book will be about Israel and everything I've experienced there. But just to give you a quick overview, just about everything I went through growing up in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago. Having friends like D, Brown, Luther Head, Will, and just Tony Allen, just a lot of guys, Dwayne Wade, that we've all grew up together, not knowing what our path is going to be, but we just kind of focus. And then you go through relationships. You got family who gives you advice, and all you want to do is just have a better life for yourself. And, you go off to college, talk about my experiences at Northwestern, and then turning pro. And so just everything that the world has really shown me and has allowed me to grow from, I just write about it in the book.
And do you have an idea when it's going to be available for the public to buy, or you're still kind of work all that?
Yeah. Hopefully I have the book ready by November. I think it should be.
Okay.
You should definitely be able to buy it in November. I'm gonna see, like, when I do the editing and go through the whole publishing process, I want to try to make sure I have my book in Hebrew and Hungarian and Greek, and a lot of different languages. But if I can only do it in English, then it just be in English. But I'm sure with the technology we have now, we can figure out a way to kind of translate it in other languages. But it's going to be a very powerful, very inspiring book, and hopefully, people can learn something about themselves, even though it's about me. But it's something that you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I want to do everything I can to be a great person in society.
Absolutely, and we're very excited about the book, and of course, as soon as everything's established with the date when it's being released and all that, we'd love to have you on again to promote it and talk more about the book. I'm sorry that we've run out of time, but it was really great having you on.
I love Israel. I love everything about the country. So anytime I can, be on, communicate with my Israeli family, I love it.
Well, all right. We appreciate also the time and your kind words. It's very nice of you, Mr. Young, and we look forward to having you on the program soon.
Okay, anytime. Just let me know.
All right, be well.
Thanks. Thank you. Have a great day out there.
All right, that was Mr. Young, who is writing a great book. Everyone should check it out. We're going to not stay. We're not going to break for commercial. We're actually going to stay right now and dial up our next guest. And while we do,
right, if you don't mind, I sorry to interrupt you. Our next guest, or let's just kind of the next hour, we're going to have a guest right now at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. This next guest, his name is Andre Ritchie, is the founder and host, producer at Sports Talk 805 TV in Santa Barbara, California, at 12:15, Zaza Pachulia, and 12:30, Ed Cohen. So really exciting 30 minutes for us. We are going to be dialing up Andre right now, and we're going to be talking to him about a lot of great stuff. Mostly, I believe we're going to be talking about basketball and football, the playoffs, maybe some NFL, some West Coast NFL, right, Ari? It's always nice to talk to people on the West Coast about the NFL.
Absolutely, because then we could get to my Cardinals every now and then. But there was a great article about Kobe Bryant, if he should be traded or not. So we'll actually get into that with Andre in a moment. But while we dial him up, I want to take this time again to plug the store. Click on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items there.
A lot of kippas, a lot of food, bamba, whatever you guys want. We have
kippas, food, books, candles, all kinds of great stuff.
Base products for the girlfriend, right, Ari?
That's right. You never know if you have an anniversary, birthday coming up, so you want to do that. And it's a lot of stuff is available. Not everything, but a lot of stuff is really available on the store site. So check that out. The store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. And we'll be dialing up
Andre right now out in West Coast. Always great to have our West Coast guys on.
That's over the southern part, Philadelphia. Right. Now it's West Coast.
Hi, am I speaking with Andre?
This is Andre. How's it going?
Great. You're on Louis live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Thank you so much for joining us. You've had a great show. We're going into our third hour here. We're very happy to have you on. And
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you. I want to first start off and talk to you a little bit about your sports TV network or your radio station, or more about it. We have had a lot of people on from LA and San Francisco. I believe you're based out of Santa Barbara. So you could tell our listeners a little bit more about what you do and your role in the sports world out in the West Coast.
Well, first of all, I got started out in sports out here in Santa Barbara. It's beautiful out here in Santa Barbara. Got started back in 1996, and I started doing public access television, and I was just breaking down games. So, I love sports like a lot of people do, and I started breaking down the sports on TV. Lo and behold, a guy from KJLA in Los Angeles who runs that television station saw me, and he said he wanted to sign me up to a contract. And that's how I got started. And from there, I covered the Lakers from 1996 all the way to 2004. I was down there, had season passes and everything. And that's really how it started. And I continued to stay on TV and do sports from that point on. And that's basically how I got started. And it's been going ever since, from covering the biggest boxing events from De La Hoya in his prime all the way to the Manny Pacquiao's and the Mayweathers now. And, it's just a blessing, and I just keep it going.
Well, Andre, that's really interesting that you have that Laker connection, because we just, in our last hour, we had the pleasure of interviewing Coach Del Harris, who was at the Lakers when you covered them. So I'm sure that might mean something to you, since you were there during his time. And he accomplished a lot of great things for the Lakers before they let him go and brought Phil in, and we know what happened there. I know I've been following you, kind of your updates on LinkedIn and stuff. I know you're a huge Laker fan. You said you covered them. So I want to talk to you about the future for the Lakers, what they need to do. A lot of rumors Bynum for Howard, or Gasol might want to leave. I mean, there's so much stuff. Steve Blake was pretty much the best bench player, which is not saying much. I mean, I love Blake, great player out of Maryland, but a lot of things here, and we're really lucky to have someone on for the West Coast to break that down for us. So please tell us your thoughts on what the Lakers need to do.
Okay, well, first of all, when you take a look at the Lakers, you knew it was going to come down to speed. And last year, the alarm bells were ringing because Fisher, God bless him, I love that guy. He's such a humanitarian for people who really don't know Derek Fisher. But, when your speed leaves and you're out there trying to guard a pick and roll, it really shows up. And when you look at the Lakers, you'll also notice that Gasol or Bynum do not like to come out on the pick and roll and contest that shot. So you see a Westbrook and a Durant hitting those shots from either corner of the free throw line like it's a scrimmage game. That's what we all saw. And we were like, well, there's got to be a movement. You got to, if it was up to me, I would say Bynum, because Bynum's younger, so he might be worth a little more. And you have to get him out there on the market, maybe, even though it's impossible right now, but maybe you could look at a Kevin Love from Minnesota, who I don't think they'll let go of, but he would be the type of person Kobe would need, an athletic power forward who can score and rebound and dependable every night, and will come out there on a pick and roll and play some kind of defense. Now, you're not going to stop the shot, but you can change the trajectory of a shot. And the two big guys for the Lakers are not doing that. But if I had to send one away, I would probably have to go with Bynum, because he's the youngest, and therefore you're going to get more value.
Andre, this is Ari. Again, thank you for being here on Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com. I saw an interesting article. I want to get your take on it. A few weeks ago, it was written about the possibility that Kobe Bryant really should be traded. He's due to make $30 million in the next couple of years, and at his age probably isn't worth that type of money. That certainly holds down the cap where you can't go after another free agent. I don't think they would ever do that in Los Angeles, but what are your thoughts about Kobe Bryant maybe taking up too much of the cap room?
Well, he does take up a lot. It's a huge hit, but, at the same time, I remember seeing this guy back in '96 when he was obviously first drafted by Charlotte, and then that same day of draft day, got sent to the Lakers for Vlade Divac. I remember him walking into the Forum. This was, way before the Lakers moved to Staples Center, and I saw him scrimmaging against Derek Fisher and Eddie Jones. And you saw this little skinny kid, Kobe Bryant, just commence to tear these guys to shreds. Now, I sat there and said, this kid's going to be good. I didn't expect to see this. I think it's more or less the way he's has the Lakers strapped. I think that's kind of like the Lakers saying, it's like the Lakers' way of dedicating, everything to Kobe, which is, in some respects out here, when you see him help get the Lakers 5 championships, it's really kind of hard to go against that grain He's getting older, and you can see it. He's slowing down a little bit, but he's the best thing the Lakers have, and I'm not sure how they're going to skate around this to, get more players to come there because they are strapped against that cap. And, you got, I think Gasol, which is about maybe $18 million a year, which is a problem also. So it's not just Kobe, but, Kobe's the main thing, but he's the draw, and he still can bring it. So it's kind of tough to figure out what direction the Lakers want to go in. But, we're working on that, and we're going to find out come draft day for sure.
It was interesting. In around 2007, Kobe Bryant was demanding a trade, and the saying is Los Angeles would rather have 1 quarter than 3 dimes. It's a star city, and you really couldn't trade Kobe Bryant even if you got some great prospects in return. Now, I want to go to Mike Brown, because I thought if the Lakers lost the first round, of course that series went 7 games, he would be out of there. They end up losing in the next round. Right. What type of leash does Mike Brown have? What type of timetable? If he doesn't go, let's say, to the conference finals next year, is he out of Los Angeles? So how much more time does he have?
It's a good question. It's a pressure cooker, and when I stick up for Mike Brown, I stick up for him for a couple of reasons. Number one, people do not remember, or they want to forget, Dan Gilbert, Mark Cuban, Michael Jordan, those 3 owners nixed the Chris Paul trade. The Lakers would have had Chris Paul had it been for those 3 owners. And people have to understand that the commissioner does not call the shots. Every owner has to okay a trade. That's number one. That's what threw him away. That, really threw him off track with the Lakers. Number 2, and this goes for every team, it's a strike-shortened season. So they're trying to come off, learning the triangle offense all these years. That's what they know. Now you bring in a Mike Brown who's trying to teach them a different offense and a different defense. And you got no time to get ready for that. And then the number 3 and the biggest one, which I do fault the Laker brass for, not the first 2, but I fault the Laker brass for not trying to develop a bench. They have a lot of championships like the Celtics do, so there's no excuse for them not, getting a trade and making, getting some kind of bench to help out the starters. That's the only thing I can fault the Lakers for. But everything else, it's pretty much not their fault. They did try to get a Chris Paul, and that just totally threw the Lakers off course. Now, next year, Mike Brown's got to take these guys a long way, or he will be out. Because out here in Laker country, it's simple. If they don't make it far, then, someone has to go.
Right, that's a great point, Andre. You're back right now with Rafael. Really, the shortened season, not being able to meet with the players because of lockout, and then boom, immediately having to come in and no more fill, no more triangle offense. And you made a great point about Pau Gasol, that $18 million. That's a lot of money for a guy who seems to be very timid sometimes, very scared, not aggressive. It's not the Pau Gasol we know from the championship teams. It seems like his brother Mark over in the Grizzlies kind of taking over that role that he had a few years ago. And of course, when I believe Chris Wallace made that trade, we've also had Chris Wallace, the GM of the Grizzlies, on the program. When he got that trade for Marc Gasol, everyone said he was crazy, and getting rid of Pau was the worst thing that would ever happen in Memphis. And actually, Memphis has been much more successful since they've gotten rid of him. So a lot of interesting things there to note. One of the last questions I want to ask you, Magic Johnson made that very bold, statement while he was still on, the management of the Lakers on TV, saying that if the Lakers didn't advance past the first round, he should for sure be fired. Do you agree? I mean, based off what you're saying, it sounds like you don't agree. So I'm just curious to hear if I can say you disagree with Magic Johnson.
Well, I've talked to Magic Johnson on a regular basis, and I haven't talked to him about that. And when I do see him, I will tell him, I totally disagree. I said, you got to give the guy a fair shot. Like I said again, I don't want to repeat myself here, but when the NBA nixed the Chris Paul trade, you pretty much had Coach Brown in a box. I'm for giving somebody a chance. Give him at least 3 years. If you give him everything he needs, and in 3 years if he can't do it, okay, then it's time to change it up. But, I would just tell Magic, you got to give the guy a chance first.
Right.
The stars got to line up right. You have to give him what he needs in order for the Lakers to get another championship. And if you have the NBA or some, certain owners in the NBA crying about Chris Paul and you can't get him, it set the Lakers way back. And, people don't want to hear that. They want championships, but that's the honest truth. And, I would totally disagree with Magic. Yeah.
Yeah, and Yeah, and a great point there, and also something that's kind of scary for the Lakers is there's a lot of good young teams out there, and the Lakers are not a young team. They're a good team, but they're not a young team. Look at the Pacers, who really, in my opinion, I mean, I lived in Indiana, and they're my favorite team, but a team that really could be the number 2 or 3 seed now behind the Heat and Bulls for the next 5 years. The 76ers, a team that now could be the new number 4 seed. Then in the West, I can't say enough about the Thunder and even the Grizzlies. I know they struggled. But I want to ask you a last question. We have about 2 minutes. Really, really interesting series with the Spurs and Thunder. Who you got, and can you tell our listeners why?
Well, everything points to me to the Thunder maybe in 7. But the reason I have to go with San Antonio is because of Coach Popovich.
Okay.
I mean, here's a guy who's unassuming. You don't really talk about San Antonio. They're in a small market. But you can't get 4 championships and not be able to coach. And he's got people like Duncan, who still has some gas in the tank. Tony Parker, who's a great guard. They got a nice bench. And it's Popovich and the way he coaches defense. And, the kind of, I call it the Jack Ham theory. Now, Jack Ham, superstar linebacker with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They never see the guy out of position. When I look at the Spurs on defense, you don't really see him out of position. And once they adjust to, Oklahoma City's speed, they might be able to take them out in 7 games. Although Oklahoma City is very formidable, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can win this in 7. But the coaching is the edge. I think Popovich has the edge, and I think San Antonio will win this in 7.
Right. On our show, Andre, we've been talking about the Spurs bench for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We love college basketball, and there's so many. Danny Green kind of struggled for a bit. Wherever he was, I don't even remember, but he played for 2 years, and now he's really Dwan Blair. I mean, the list goes on and on. Leonard from San Diego State, Joseph. I mean, it's just insane. Boris Diaw, Steven Jackson. So the bench is very impressive. So we'll see what happens, and I wish the best to your Lakers, and we want to thank you so much for joining us on the program. And we'd love to have you back on, maybe next season right before the Lakers season starts to give us some inside scoop on the upcoming season. How does that sound?
It sounds like a plan, and thanks for having me on. And, we'll definitely do it again.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, Andre. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That was Andre Ritchie here on Louis Live.
Again, we are not going to be taking a commercial.
That's right. We're going to dial up our next guest. But thanks to Andre Ritchie for appearing.
We're going to dial him up in a second. Ari, what were your thoughts on what he was saying with the Lakers and how it's really not Mike Brown's fault? It's more the management needs to get better players, and they need to get over the whole Chris Paul not going there. They need to just move on. What are your thoughts on that?
He just had some great points. It's true. People forget that there were a couple owners that stymied Chris Paul going to the Lakers, and maybe rightfully so, because the Lakers would have been a powerhouse. I don't know if they would have been good enough to beat the Spurs, but they would have certainly been close had Paul been able to go to the Lakers. But I think Paul Gasol making $18 million, that really hits it on the head.
Right.
That it's definitely a problem.
And we're going to be calling now Zaza Pachulia. And we're very excited to have him on. We tried to have him on last Thursday and didn't work out, but we are dialing him up right now. And Ari will introduce him for our listeners and for everyone listening.
Yes, great show so far. Once again, go to the store. Hi, am I speaking with Zaza Pachulia?
Yes, that's it.
Hi, you're live on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
Sorry, who's talking to?
I'm sorry, can you hear us? Zaza? Hello? Okay, we're going to try dial Zaza there again. Looks like we're having a little bit of an issue there. So bear with us, please. Again, Zaza Pachulia of the Atlanta Hawks in a few moments here on Louis Live on Israel Sports Radio. And thank you for everyone joining us. Once again, check out the store by clicking on the store tab. Hi, Zaza?
Yes.
Hi, okay, great. Better connection there. It's a pleasure to have on Zaza Pachulia from the Atlanta Hawks. And you're live on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. How you doing out there?
I'm good, sir. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing great. And again, it's wonderful to have you on. And go ahead, Raphael.
Zaza, again, thank you so much for joining us. I know a lot of people in Israel are very big fans of your game and everything you've been able to accomplish. Of course, you played in Turkey this past season during the lockout. I want to start off with your career in Turkey from '99 to 2003, really getting used to playing it with the top teams in Europe. Could you tell our listeners what it was like playing professional basketball at such a young age?
Oh, it was a great moment for me. So a lot of reasons, and of course, the main reason was, in Georgia, basketball is, okay level, but I'm not going to compare to Turkey or, or Israel or Italy, France, Spain. So basically, that was a great place for me to be close to home, and I had a better chance basically to go to NBA from there. So that was a great moment. I was lucky, of course, to end up playing in Turkey, and basically it was a great opportunity for me.
Zaza, I have an interesting question here at the beginning. At 13 years old, you were 6 feet 8 inches tall. I can't imagine as a short Jewish man myself what that's like. So, did you kind of know early, hey, I'm going to play basketball? I mean, this is just kind of destined for me.
Well, I always wanted to basketball. My mom used to be a basketball player. I always wanted to play basketball. I love the sport. It was very popular back in Georgia. I was tall, but for my parents, education was the main focus, and school was number one priority. It has been all the time. But after actually the moving to Turkey, that was a huge decision for my family. And actually I was 14 years old, and I couldn't make decision, and that was totally my parents' help and their decision, to move to Turkey, and that was a great, huge moment for my career.
Right, and being a lot of guys, sometimes they make that spurt in height, when they're 16, 17. But as Ari said, my coach, you by age 13, you were 6'8". I want to move on now to you got drafted in 2003 in the second round out of Turkey, playing in Europe, playing against some of the top talent. What was it like to go to not the biggest market in the NBA, play for the Magic your first season in the NBA? That must have been weird, coming from a foreign country to going to a place where it's not the biggest city. It's known for Disney World, of course, but besides that, not the biggest market. So what was that like?
Well, let me tell you something. Coming from you're overseas, and you really, first of all, you don't understand big market and small market in that age also, and as a rookie and coming from overseas, and you don't care either because the bottom line, end of the day, you're part of the NBA family, and you're gonna wear the NBA jersey, and particularly Orlando Magic for my situation. So I really of those things. It was the beginning of my career. It was a great opportunity for me. Most important thing, I was playing for the great coach, Doc Rivers, and I still think he's the one of the best. I played for, and city-wise, great city. Fans were amazing. There was only sports, in Orlando. And, I had a lot of fun. I had great teammates like Tracy McGrady, Juwan Howard, and Tyrone Lue, and Drew Gooden. They helped me a lot. And, I got the opportunity for 19 years old, maybe not necessarily 30 minutes a game, but, 11 minutes a game, played in 50 games. It's still a good start for the rookie, who came from overseas.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, you went to Milwaukee, where you got kind of double the playing time. Really, looking at all your numbers, free throw percentage went up, rebounds went up, everything went up, points per game was doubled. And then you really made your name, and you signed with the Hawks, and you've been there ever since. And, Zaza, we've had a lot of great people from the Atlanta media. We've had a guy from ESPN Radio, and we had the Atlanta Hawks voice. And he told us that something that our fans in Israel might not know is that you are nicknamed Balboa around Atlanta. You are known for being one of the toughest, most fierce, not scared of anybody in the NBA. And I want to ask you, why do you think that is, and what makes you so tough?
Everybody has a role. First of all, once you spend some time in the NBA and, you play for the good coaches, have good teammates, be successful, I mean being players, and I have a great advantage that, I'm in a good team who makes the playoffs for the last 5 years. You learn a lot, and you get experience, and appreciate more, where you are, and you accept your role. And I have my role in the team. And, I'm sure everybody wants to score 30, 40 points a game, like LeBron does, like Kobe does, like D-Wade, like Kevin Durant. But you can't have only one or two those type of players in the team, And then you should have a defensive player. You're going to have the point guard. You have the guy who hustles. So basically, whoever the teams are successful that have these kind of players. The players who accept their roles. And, this is my role. I accept my role. I know what my teammates and my coaches expect me every single night. And I'm enjoying doing that. And that role is, to play hard and to bring the energy. Either I start or come on the bench and, be solid for 48 minutes and, for a whole season. And big men, that's what they do. They need to be strong. They need to be tough. They need to be defend and rebound the ball. And, that's what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely, and I mean you do a great job. And being from Israel, since we are Israel Sports Radio, that seems to be a trait that a lot of obviously Georgia's not Middle East, but a lot of guys from this area are very tough. You got in the face of Kevin Garnett at a young age. A lot of people would be scared, but you weren't scared. You showed him you were tough, and I think that actually made Kevin respect you. I mean, maybe he was mad, maybe this and that, but to be able to do something like that when you're a European player just coming into the NBA shows a lot of, in Hebrew, we would say chutzpah. So that's really awesome, and we really respect you for that. I wanted to talk about your team this year, a very talented team, a team that here at Israel Sports Radio, we really think maybe if you could have played, if you weren't injured and Al Horford was injured, if everyone was kind of healthy, this team could have made a deep run in the playoffs. So are you excited to be part of the future of the Hawks next year, and what are your goals for next year, and what are you looking forward to achieving with this organization?
Well, I've been here for 7 years, and
hello, Zaza? Can you hear us? Okay,
yes,
yes, you're back on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hear you.
Okay, so I think we have a great opportunity with this core of the group. Great players, and it's always okay to add somebody. We need as many options. As many option coach has, the better it is. So I really like this team, and we've been in the playoffs, like I said, several times in a row, and that's a great thing. And if we didn't have them in injuries this year, it could be different. And we might be still playing the playoff basketball. You never know. But this is part of the game. Injuries are part of the game, and you really can't control because bottom line, you going up there and trying doing your best, and especially in the playoffs, trying to do everything you can to bring the success for the team. So we were kind of unlucky this year. Both me and Al got injured. Even though I came back end of the year, it wasn't as the same as before, and I didn't have a chance at all to come back in the playoffs. So, and it's always next year. Everybody should get healthy for this summer, and we have 6 guys from this team who still has a contract with the Hawks. Now I don't know what's going to happen this end of the day to management decision if they're going to keep all these guys or trade somebody. But, I know one thing, this is a good core, this is a good team.
Right. Zaza, it's interesting looking at the Hawks roster because you have some players with some great veteran leadership. Jerry Stackhouse has been in the league for a long, long time. Tracy McGrady drafted in '98, so he's been in the league for a while. Now, I, of course, still remember Joe Johnson from the Phoenix days. He's a little bit younger, of course. But what's it like to learn from some of the guys who've been around the block for a very long time in the NBA?
Telling you, it's very important. It's very important to have somebody who has been in the league, who has seen a lot, who has done a lot. And I want to bring one guy first of all, Jerry Stackhouse. I'm lucky to have, and I'm very fortunate to have him as a teammate. I learned so much from him, on and off the court, because he's been in the league such a long time, and he has seen so many things. So nothing can give you the better example, Jerry Stackhouse. Even though he hasn't played that much in the games, his leadership over the course, his presence is amazing. So I'm glad that he was part of the team, and I'm very fortunate again to be his teammate for this year.
Right, and I wanted to ask you about Dan Pierce, someone who they brought in. Of course, you're a big guy. Dan Pierce also been around the block, played for a lot of great teams, played in Dallas. I mean, he's played everywhere. Was on the Heat, I believe, last year with LeBron. So what was it like learning from Eric?
Well, Eric, we brought him in the middle of the season.
Right.
And again, he's a great guy, a great personality. And for a big man, we had a very good relationship. And, most of the time we were practicing and working out at the same time with the same coach. And, I had I spent more time with him than with Eric, Jerry. Because me and Derek were, basically the same. We play same position. So, right. Great guy. And again, those kind of guys like Jerry, right, Eric, and T-Mac. I mean, these guys who's been in the league for more than 10 years, man. It's great to have them around. To show supporting us and telling us different things that we can use on and off the court, and it's a great experience.
Right. And Zaza, I wanted to ask you, there's been some, problems lately or in the last few years with Russia and Georgia and all that. So what is it like for you to be able to come back home and bring so much of that community and represent your country in such a great way? I mean, you're an NBA player, a well-known NBA player in America, living the dream of, I'm sure, everyone in Georgia. So what is it like when you go back home?
Well, I had nothing to do with the relationship with Western Georgia. I'm not a politician. I'm an athlete.
Right.
And what I can do for his country, I'm trying to do. The most important thing to represent your country every summer in Georgia. When I go back in Georgia, we play for either qualification or last year, for example, we made the European Championship. So it's a huge honor for me, to represent the country for years and to be captain of the team and to lead the team. And I'll continue to do it again, and then hopefully going to replace me and continue the success that this team has had for the last couple of years. And bottom line, I was raised there, so from traditional family, and I love my country. I love Georgia because it doesn't matter how small or big it is. That's where I belong.
Absolutely. And last question, Zaza. Of course, the lockout this year was very stressful for all you NBA players. Some people decided to rest, but you decided to come back to Turkey where you got your career started. Can you tell our listeners why you made the decision, and do you feel like it helped you get in shape for the NBA season?
Also, for not a lot of players to play overseas, and the Turkey basically is my home. I call it home because I played for 6 years before NBA.
Right.
I became a pro player in Turkey. So, it's a special place for me. And the Galatasaray invited me, and to play basketball because I think basketball.
That's right.
To play for a team like that. Both sides agree.
All right, Zaza, can you still hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, we certainly appreciate the time here on Louis Live and Israel Sports Radio. It was a lot of fun. Good luck to the Hawks next season, and we look forward to having you on in the future. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. And I like your country, and, Israel is one of my favorite places, and, I've been there before, and, again, I'm willing to come and for vacation, for historical places. It's a great place, so, thank you.
It's very kind
we
words.
really appreciate that, Zaza, and we really, at Israel Sports Radio, really appreciate what you do for European basketball, how you've been able to be a successful player in the NBA, and I know for a lot of Israeli listeners right there, all our listeners in Israel, all the young guys who are playing on these youth teams, look at Zaza. If Zaza can do it, you guys can as well.
Definitely.
Okay, Zaza, have a great day out there.
All right, thanks. You too, man. Thank you.
All right, that was Zaza Pachulia, who is a center for the Atlanta Hawks.
Great player, very tenacious guy who's going to come in and he's going to, as Bob Rathburn, the Atlanta Hawks voice said, this is a quote from him, he's going to punch you to get the rebound. Or he'll do whatever he can to get the rebound. He wants to win for his team more than any player on that roster. I mean, he loves winning. He loves competing. And, Ari, that's something that I think is very European. I mean, European basketball is much more defense.
And more team-oriented, too.
Team-oriented, extremely physical. No one scores in the EuroLeague 25 points, 30 points. No, if you average 18 points a game, you are going to be one of the top 5, 10 players in Europe. I'm talking about Spain, France, Italy, Germany. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to get 2 points here. And Zaza is a guy who just comes on the floor, brings so much energy, and has gone in confrontations with KG. I mean, the list. I love it. I love it. It's great. It's really great because it shows KG. There's guys who have went to schools like Duke and UConn, and they're terrified of KG. But this guy from Tbilisi in Georgia, the capital of Georgia, lots of love for Zaza.
That's awesome. I love that. I love the nickname Balboa.
Right.
A good nickname for any athlete in sports.
And 2-minute commercial, Ari, and then we'll have our next guest on.
Yes, that sounds good. You're listening to Louis Live. Once again, check out the store by going to the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. We'll be back after this. It's Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Work in the Middle East. IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed frequent flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Back here on Louis Live, we've had a great show so far. We're going to continue with our final guest of the evening, dialing him up right now. But before we do that, we want to thank Clenari Carter, Ari Bluestein, Del Harris, Mr. Young, Zaza Pachulia.
Jitim Young.
Yes.
It's funny saying all the guys' full names, then just Mr. Young.
Mr. Young, and Ron Ross, author of Buddy Davis versus Murder Incorporated.
We're dialing up Ed Cohen, who does a lot of great stuff, works at NHL, Sirius, a lot of good stuff. So we're dialing him up. We're going to talk a lot of playoffs, baseball, football. Hi, am I speaking with Ed Cohen?
Yeah, speaking.
Ed, you're on Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, great to be with you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I just want to tell our listeners a little bit about you before we get into everything. You work for the NHL Network. You also do stuff for Sirius satellite, kind of update your listeners with what's going on in the world of sports. And you also work for Madison Square Garden varsity. So, and you work for Rutgers University. My father is an alum there from 50 years ago, so I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that.
Very good. Go Scarlet Knights.
Go Scarlet Knights, right. I want to start off, and of course the women's team, you're not for the men's team, you're the voice for the women's team, and as sad as it is, the women's team is much, much, much more successful. So that's really cool. I want to start off and ask you, we're in Israel, and I've been seeing a lot of people are working at this MSG varsity, covering a lot of high school sports in New York. So can you tell our listeners more about this MSG varsity and what exactly you do for them?
Absolutely. It's I don't want to say it's the first of its kind, but it really is kind of a trendsetter, at least here in New York, in that it's an all high school network with shows over 4 regions. So we do here in the New York area, the Connecticut, Westchester, Hudson Valley region, which is kind of north of the city. We do one in the city with the Bronx and Brooklyn and other parts of the boroughs. We're out in New Jersey and we're out in Long Island. So we have shows that really update high school sports in those areas in high definition. And then we have a number of other talk shows as well. And I do mainly the play-by-play. So we'll be calling games all over, whether it be lacrosse and softball and baseball here in the spring. In the fall, it's really football and soccer and volleyball that drives the ship, with some field hockey too. And then in the winter, we're really heavy on basketball and some hockey too. So it really is great. It's a tremendous production, and it really gives parents and friends and family and all that a chance to see their kids or whoever else on television, and everyone kind of really enjoys the experience. So it's fun to be a part of.
Right, and for our listeners in Israel, they're going to kind of laugh when I say this, but in America, high school basketball, high school football, that's stuff that people take very, very seriously. And by age 14, you're going to have Billy Donovan showing up at a basketball game to watch a freshman. And 20 years ago, we've had so many great guests on the last few months, and 20 years ago was not like that. So now really would be the best time to start a network like that really focuses on sports. And what not a better place than New York City. I mean, there's so many great high school legends. It's just off the top of my head, I just wrote a story about Sebastian Telfair. So just a lot of great guys there. So it's really cool to hear that there's like a legitimate, Madison Square Garden, the entertainment there. They're known for doing so much great stuff. It's really great to hear that there's more of a focus, not just on the professional level, but high school level. And that's very exciting. I think Ari now is going to talk to you a little about the NHL playoffs, because it's been an amazing one, to say the least.
Yeah, and let's talk about right now the Devils, of course, in the Stanley Cup Finals, but everyone seemed in New York City to think the Rangers were going to make it a team of destiny, but very rarely, in fact, it's never happened that a team goes to 7 games the first 2 rounds and then goes to the Stanley Cup Finals. So at the end of the day, did the Rangers just simply run out of gas?
Don't tell John Tortorella that, because he'll definitely say no. But,
right.
I think, there are times even in the Washington series, you're watching them against the Capitals saying, this team could be out, after 5 games, after 6 games. And their hard work paid off to the point where they survived those tough games. They got some breaks, but they survived and they advanced. And then came the Devils, and they had that 2-1 series lead. And they won those 2 of those first 3 games with really Henrik Lundqvist saving them each time out, especially in Game 3. Their offense took a while to get going. First period, there was 0 from the Rangers, and it carried into Games 5 and 6 too, when they were down and couldn't ultimately come back. But I don't know if it was fatigue. Maybe it was a mental part of it. Maybe it was a style of play too, where they were playing a team with a terrific forecheck in the Devils that kept on coming, that got great play from their 4th line of all lines. Steven Gianta and Ryan Carter. And I don't think the Rangers really answered the bell and raised their game offensively to match that. Fatigue aside, the Devils played a 7-game series too in the first round. So I don't think that was the issue. I just think the Rangers' style and their approach, especially early in games, just wasn't at New Jersey's level by the end of that series.
All right, and New Jersey now in the Stanley Cup Finals taking on the Canes, 6-seeded Devils versus the 8-seeded Canes. And you don't want to insult the Stanley Cup playoffs because I actually think of the postseasons it's the best. But it feels like there's something wrong with the format. Maybe not. I don't know. But regular season not meaning as much when you have an 8 seed and a 6 seed. Is there something that maybe the NHL can do to make things count more for the regular season, or are they just going to say, hey, you know what, once you get in the playoffs, it's a crapshoot, and that's that?
I don't know if there's much you can do. I mean, if you're the LA Kings, you're the 8th seed out west, and you start on the road, you win 2 in Vancouver against a team that won the President's Trophy. I mean, I think that's a pretty tough task, and they handled it. The difference is, I think the Kings are really unique, number 8 seed, because the West is very strong, and they steamrolled through the 3 top seeds in the West. They lost the game in the first round, they lost the game in the West Finals, but that was it. I think it shows you that the teams you think are going to be really good before a season, if there's talent there, and it takes a while to develop, but they find a way to get that second season, get into the playoffs, those are dangerous teams. And Darryl Sutter took over in December. They traded for Jeff Carter at the trade deadline with Columbus. They gave up Jack Johnson, but they felt that their defense with Jonathan Quick was strong enough to sustain. That's a really good hockey team. And now it's finally come to the surface. So I don't know what else you could have done. They started on the road. They won on the road. They haven't lost on the road. So they kind of took care of business. I don't think it would have mattered if they were an 8 seed, a 1 seed, or a 2 seed. They're just that good.
All right, with Game 1 tomorrow, it'll be in Jersey. What is your prediction for the Stanley Cup Finals? Who wins it and how many games?
I'm going to say the Kings. I think that they'll split New Jersey, but I think they'll go back home, at least win 1 there, maybe 2. I'm going to say Kings in 6. I think the styles are great, and it's going to be a really exciting finals to watch because they both play up-tempo. The Devils' forecheck is aggressive, and the Kings are just so sound in all areas. They really are. It's fun hockey to watch. But I think ultimately, I think they have a little bit more. They have guys who've been around, in these situations before. I'm going to take the Kings in 6, even if that means, winning 2 on the road like they've done all playoffs.
Interesting. And, of course, Kings being an 8 seed, it's just funny to hear someone kind of give them the edge in the championship, and that's something that doesn't happen that often in any sport. So we have your prediction down. So if you're wrong, we'll get back to you and let you know. Next, I know you said you wanted to discuss the New York sports scene. Of course, you live there, you work there, you cover it. So we've had a lot of great people on from the New York media, New York ESPN, WFAN. So it's great to have you on. I want to ask you about the Knicks. They did make the announcement Mike Woodson will be returning. But what are your thoughts on Carmelo being traded? Can Carmelo or Stoudemire play together? What do the Knicks need to do to not, again, be a 7-8 seed? Because Knicks fans kind of want something more next year. So what are your thoughts, Ed?
Well, it really is an interesting dilemma because the fact is they signed Amare before they had Carmelo, and now they don't have much wiggle room with the two of them, and especially with Amare's injury history. You don't know if he's really a tradable piece. Carmelo, I think, just turned 28, by the way. I think today's his birthday. But it's tough to tell. I think that the Jeremy Lin injury. And the Baron Davis injury, they couldn't keep someone healthy at point guard the whole year outside of the insanity when he came in. I think with the right point guard and the right system, they could coexist, but that never really worked this season. And, they went through a stretch where Carmelo was healthy, and then he wasn't, and whenever the other was injured, the other thrived. So it brought all these questions. But, something tells me with the right point guard, they can coexist. The problem is with their, the contracts, they really don't have much wiggle room right now. So I think Mike Woodson is the right guy for them, though, in the sense that he really got them to play hard after D'Antoni was let go or fired or resigned or however you want to sum it up.
Right.
So I think in that regard, it's a good thing, but there's not much leverage right now with the salary cap.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, Woodson should be credited with kind of giving back some energy and passion to that Atlanta Hawks fan base. It's funny I mentioned that because we just had Zaza Pachulia on, and he played under Woodson. And Woodson went to Atlanta now has been in the playoffs for a long time, but for a while they really struggled. They were one of the laughing stocks of the NBA. So I think he's a great coach. I remember hearing Jeremy Lin and other stars. I can't believe I said Jeremy Lin first, but Amari Stoudemire and guys vouching for him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And of course, you made some great points. Moving now to baseball, Yankees, Mets. The Mets have been the surprise of the season. I think they're in second place now, 2.5 out. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
No, it's amazing what they've done. That's been a funny division, hasn't it? I mean, you have the Nationals where they are, at the top, and then you have the Mets and the Marlins right there. I think the Marlins have more talent. There's no question about it. But Terry Collins has pushed all the right buttons. He really has. I mean, there was one game in Florida, which I think they lost to the Marlins. It was a couple weeks ago, where he brought in a pinch hitter who got on base, and then he brought up Mike Baxter against a sinker ball that was against Heath Bell, and he comes through with a 2-run hit. He's really pushed the right buttons. He's getting these guys to play, and he's almost the perfect manager given this team, because they probably knew they were going to lose Reyes. Wright is obviously playing out of his mind right now, but they needed someone who can motivate these young guys, who can get it to play, during a time of real transition for the franchise, given the whole Madoff situation. And he's done that. And they've also got a little luck, too, in the sense that Johan Santana has finally returned to form, throwing the shutout.
Finally.
Now, what can you say about R.A. Dickey? I mean, pitching's the foundation. Right. Now they're getting it all over.
Right. That's something that you got to feel. I'm a huge Santana fan, big Blue Jay fan, so I always loved the rivalry between Halladay and Santana for the Cy Young those years. It was great. So it's good to see that he's back and pitching well. But you said it. Yeah, you said it. I mean, the pitching has really brought this team together. And let's give a shout-out to David Wright. I really am curious to get your thoughts on what he's been able to accomplish with so much trade talk, and what are they going to do with him. He's having a spectacular year.
Yeah, I think so. It might help that the expectations for the team have really subsided, and they really were low entering this season. So he's been able to go out and just focus on his approach at the plate. The fences moving in at Citi Field have not hurt either. Not so much for the numbers. I'm sure he's probably gotten a couple of new Citi Field homers, but the pressure, or at least the mentality that you need that big long swing to succeed in this ballpark, have probably affected him those first 3 years, and that's probably taken a little bit off of him. It doesn't hurt that he's playing for a contract.
Right.
It doesn't hurt that Reyes is gone, in the sense that he knows this is his team. But he really now is the guy who this young group is looking up to. There's no Delgado, there's no Beltran, there's no Reyes. There aren't those key guys they've had the last few years. Jason Bay has been a bust, and Wright's kind of taking the responsibility. And sometimes when it's you, and everyone is looking up at you, you sometimes do some great things, and he's doing amazing things right now.
Right, and really, when you said the name Jason, Bay, I'm a Canadian as well, and he used to be the pride of Canada for a while there. Now it's kind of switched to, I believe, Joey Votto's from Toronto, or Jay Bruce. I mix up the two. But wow, Bay, a guy who got $100 million plus, and he's really, as you said, a bust. We have about 3 minutes left. I want to move on to football now. We're really talking all New York sports here. Giants, of course, Dante Manningham goes to 49ers, so they lose another receiver. And I believe they also lost a running back. They released him. So what do you expect from the Giants next year?
I think they'll be strong. I really do. I mean, losing Jacobs and Manningham hurts, but Jacobs was Super Bowl or bust. His time had come to an end, and they could probably use a little more Danny Ware this season. But they have the quarterback, obviously. I think the line got stronger as last season went along. Jerry Reese is very good at finding that last piece. Their secondary is going to be terrific. I mean, with a healthy Terrell Thomas on top of all the guys coming back, Kenny Phillips, Corey Webster, Aaron Ross, and Prince Kamara, who played the second half of last year. Secondary these days, you need multiple guys because it's become such a passing league. So in that regard, they're really strong. And, their defensive line, even with, whether they have Osi Umenyiora or not, given his contract situation, time will tell. But I think the Giants will be really strong. And, the funny thing is, this offseason, the Jets are the ones everyone's talking about. So, especially a guy named Mark and a guy named Tim. So
right.
We'll have to see what happens with their quarterback situation.
Well, that's funny because that's my next question. Tim Tebow, of course, going to the Jets. Interesting that I think in the New York media, correct me if I'm wrong, if the Jets go 1-2 under Mark Sanchez, I think people will call in radio shows across New York City and demand for Tim Tebow. What is the timetable for Sanchez?
No one's happy to hear that from the Giants. Sanchez, they say, really threw well last week at OTAs. And it sounds like he knows that there's a guy pushing him. And he knows he...
Okay, we lost Ed there. We're going to call him right now. And just a quick...
wrap it up, I guess.
Yes.
Get his final thoughts on Tebow, because you got to end a show with Tim Tebow. And then give you an update for the next week, tomorrow, Thursday. And then next week's going to be a special week. And just some updates on Israel Sports Radio and Louis Live.
Hello.
Yeah, Ed, sorry about that. We lost you there. Go ahead. You were talking about Mark was throwing well because he knows there's someone pressuring him in the backup position.
Right. No, they said he had a great throwing session last week. He looked sharp, and he's an interesting case because it's going to be year 4 coming up. He's had a nice couple playoff runs his first 2 years, but last season was not good. It was not good. It was partly because of a very inexperienced line. That Sunday night game against Baltimore really came to a head. And obviously the whole thing with Santonio Holmes the last week of the season really showed that this is a somewhat dysfunctional group. But if they can move beyond that, I think Tebow is going to be a good thing for Sanchez. Question is, will he be able to elevate his game? I don't know if they're better with Tebow as their guy. I really don't. I think he's always going to push and make a case for him to be the starting quarterback. But with Tony Sperano and the Wildcat, maybe Tebow really, is best in that he elevates your options under center. And if Sanchez can get better with all that, then, they're even better for it. But the problem is last year he regressed. And if you said, is this our guy for the next 5 years? Is he our NFL quarterback? Based on last year, you'd say no. So if he can take the next step in his game with a guy pushing him, maybe they can, do some nice things.
Right. It was funny, Ed, you're back with Rafael. Very interesting stat. Eli Manning, first, 3 years in the NFL, 20-19. A lot of issues, exactly. Of course, I think we're going to be having Kevin Gilbride on the show. So he's really the one who I believe kind of pushed Giants management not to give up on him and, work with him more. Of course, the offensive coordinator of the Giants. So I believe Sanchez has a better record than Eli did in his first 3 years, or a similar record. So, and
he's won a lot of road games on the playoffs.
A lot of, yeah, exactly. Especially last year when they won in Indianapolis and,
went to 2 AFC title games.
Right. So what do you think of that?
Well, Mark Sanchez, his first 2 years, especially in the playoffs, and that first year when they had to win Indy, given the Colts kind of rolled over, but he won the games he had to win those first 2 years, and you have to give him credit. But I also think the Jets put him in a position not to fail, if you know what I mean. Especially his first postseason, he was put in a position where if he made a simple play, they had the infrastructure to get it done. That was really Brian Schottenheimer's finest moment as offensive coordinator, in that they called the offense almost in spite of Sanchez. I feel that they put him in a position not to fail, but once he had to make plays against Indianapolis in that second half, it became tough to get over the hump. Going back to Eli, though, his record didn't speak volumes those first 3-4 years leading into the run to the Super Bowl in 2007. But in the final 2 minutes of games, he showed then what he's shown now. You don't want anybody else in the league under center besides him. He's that good. So, his record might not have spoken, in terms of a body of work. He made a lot of routine mistakes, but when the game's on the line, there's nobody better.
Absolutely. And it's a great point, and we'll see what's going to happen with Sanchez if Sanchez can turn into that type of player of an Eli Manning. All right, Ed, we certainly appreciate the time here on Louis Live at IsraelSportsRadio.com, and we'll have to do it again soon in the future.
Guys, it was a blast. I never did Birthright, so let's make this the next step. So I'm always happy to come on with you, and thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks.
It was great. Be well.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right, that was Ed Cohen, and that's going to conclude our show. But before,
what a show.
Great show, great show. But before we conclude and thank all our guests, let's give some announcements and some future guests coming on the program soon.
Okay, tomorrow we're going to be having Mike Rose from Newsday, a big publication in the New York area. Derek Sharp, for our Israeli issues, probably one of the most well-known Israeli basketball players in the history of the game. Jim Williams, good times, good stuff, the best at 11 a.m. Eastern. And then a great reporter who covers a lot of stuff at 11:30. Looking ahead, Thursday, a lot of Zach Rosen, guys. The future really was better than Jeremy Lin in college. Won Ivy League Player of the Year 2 years in a row. Just signed a contract with Leon Rose. There's already hype that this guy could be one of the best Jewish players of all time. We'll see what happens there. Brent Weber, who does a lot of broadcasting. Gina Pitts from Atlanta. Adam Bernard for the SiriusXM producer of college sports. So that's that. Next week, very great week. Larry Rosen, Baltimore Ravens VP. Jason Stark from ESPN. Ari Louis is one of his favorites. Bruce Jacobs next week.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Big fan of Bruce.
Scott Jackson from Washington, D.C. Henry Lawrence, former Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ, on the Oakland Raiders. So that's just for the next, 14 days. Then in the future, Harvey Fromer, Cub Bunin, Mark Serber, Jason Blesnick. You know how we do it. Stay with us. A lot of good things in the future.
As the provost says, only the biggest names on Israel Sports Radio.
Right.
They all come on the program. All right, let's thank everyone who was on the show today. Great show. First, Clenari Carter, our Southern correspondent of the United States, breaking down some NBA postseason. Ari Bluestein saying Cole Hamels right now is the Cy Young of the National League.
Right.
Former NBA Coach of the Year Dale Harris giving us some history on the Rockets' run to the NBA Finals against the Celtics in '81 and what it was like keeping Kobe Bryant in check and developing slowly into the superstar he is today.
Who did he say that he did? John Barry, right? He said that John Barry was a better player at the time, but
than Kobe Bryant.
Very interesting stuff there.
Yes, Rod Ross, author of Buddy Davis versus Murder Incorporated, explaining how Bummy wanted to go in a different path than some of his friends and colleagues who went in the gangster business. Professional European basketball player and author, of course, Mr. Young.
Mr. Young.
Finally able to get the interview. He's writing a book, and it's great. Looking forward to that coming out. Andre Ritchie, the founder, host, and producer at Sports Talk 805 TV out in Los Angeles. Talking about how Pau Gasol maybe needs to go because of the $18 million cap, but expects perhaps Biden to take the leave out of Los Angeles. Zaza Pachulia, the center for the Atlanta Hawks. Pachulia, the center for the Atlanta Hawks. It's talking about how much he loves Israel, and of course, wrapping up with Ed Cohen, talking about Tim Tebow,
New York sports.
Yes, New York City, and of course, all the good stuff going on in the NHL Finals. Stay tuned for more great programming later on in the week. But that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.